Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Blue Dragon 5 here.
And Rohith Dar.
It's time yet again to explore the vast catalog and find out what's a must or a bust on Disney Plus. And tonight, we're talking What If Season 2. We're going to wrap up on it because the way Disney Plus put them up this year, it was literally an episode every day. It was the hair before Christmas and all the way right before New Year's. So, no way we could really cover it week to week this time, so we're doing it. We're doing it all at once and kind of looking back on it and giving our thoughts. So yeah. So Rohit, overall, what did you think about season two?
Uh, I will say from the top, I wasn't the biggest fan of What If Season 1. Just to give you a frame of reference, I like some episodes more than others, but I think on the whole, I think What If Season 1 didn't just really hold a lot of staying power with me. I think the overall story, like the through line and the end threat, I think was just kind of, just kind of washed over, has been there and done that, and it doesn't leave much. That left a lot to desire. However, season two, I think What If Season Two does a better job of having more stronger singular episodes, and I think the through line. Well, I understand some people have criticisms about how things end and who the main threat is. I think there is a little bit more of a personal through line for a character that didn't necessarily care much about in season one, but I care a little bit more about in season two. And I think with the introduction of the new character Kahori and sort of how she gets involved at the end, I think overall there's a lot more flair and there's a lot more interesting actual arcs and journeys that the individual characters in each what if episode goes through, and there's a lot of more cool like permutations that I feel like weren't really realized upon. In contrast to the first season, season two doesn't do the thing where it's like, oh, it's basically the same plot as prior MCU movie, but just with a different character. There's actually different unique stories and different unique combinations of character dynamics. So you have something new, and you have certain stories that kind of interestingly parallel and add on to certain thematic arcs and journeys that I would like to break down further into detail for certain episodes of the show.
Okay. Yeah, for me, so here's the thing. On principle, I love What If. I've been enamored with the concept. I love the idea of What If, and I was always delighted that we're doing it. We're applying What If to the MCU with this show. So I was a big. I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the first season, but the more I sat with it, even with this, just right now, the point at which we're at in the MCU with the multiverse, now all that works. It does fly in my face more when I just think about the multiverse concept in general, because we've had it not just in the MCU, but in so many things. You've had it in the MCU. We've seen it kind of brought to life cinematically with the DC universe at least twice, if you count the TV stuff and the live action. Then we have the Spider Verse. We've done the multiverse a lot lately, and What If is kind of, unfortunately, What If does kind of bear a little bit of like my issues with how the MCU's been tackling What If, because it's already been tackling the multiverse. In that, when you look at the Crisis, and you look at the how DC's kind of like done Elseworlds and everything. That one's very simple, very broad, very much like it's kind of like the Crisis on Two Earths animated movie, where okay, every decision creates a universe, and because like every person in that universe is making a different decision, it's like ad infinitum in terms of like you're never going to run out of room, and it could be literally anything you want. So it's very open ended. Now, in the MCU, we very much lock in on the whole branch timeline thing. We've done it through Loki, we've done it through What If. Spider Verse was vague, and then we added the whole canon events thing, which we got to get the third movie to see if that's a lie, if that's not a lie. I don't really know yet. So I guess what I'm getting is that when I look at What If, it's I think this season you feel more in the first season that yeah, they kind of saw the folly, and like we have this one decision that essentially caused the branch timeline that is like a traditional kind of Elseworldsy kind of like What If situation. but aesthetically we're not making it one for one what the movie is, so that conceit already is not on its face what it says it's going to be. And it's always like the struggle I have with What If when I look at it. It's like, you know, I keep going to the original Captain Carter episode, which is our first episode of What If, which of course I love Peggy Carter, I love the Captain Carter idea, I love doing that. But when I look at that episode, it's like, okay, so what if, you know, this one specific moment happened that then has like a ripple effect? Okay, I can buy that, but here's the problem. The Tesseract thing happens after we get sorry, the Tesseract thing happens before we get a Captain America. That doesn't, you know, like the events and the years are wrong, and then we have like little aesthetic things here and there. It's like, how do we get like this giant, like, you know, we have this giant Cthulhu-esque monster versus, like, you know, what we have, the plot we have in First Avengers. Like, if you want to change things up and you want to go just kind of broad with and just it's a different universe and different things can happen, that's fine and dandy. You know, we look at Multiverse of Madness, we glean that. You see what I mean? There's just kind of a conflict there. I know I'm rambling, but I'm just saying, like, I have a small bag of issues when I look at What If, that I try to kind of divorce myself from, and I enjoy a lot of things about it. You know, and it feels like this season was like we're trying to break the shackles of that, but we're also in places it's still in the back of my mind because of how we've approached the multiverse in the MCU, and we still haven't quite gotten a great beat on until, like, even with season 2 of Loki, we had a slam dunk with that at the end, but still, it's like, you know, we're literally holding it together with tight fist in the MCU by the end of the day with the multiverse. So it's still, I still don't think we've quite, you know, we've quite hit things just right there.
So is your kind of hang up just like you don't feel like the MCU has kind of clearly defined what the multiverse is in total? Like what is it that you're kind of just
The struggle I have is that, again, it's like it added like some very specific rules to how the multiverse works, and we're not really following them.
I feel like the rule is it's not really a rule, it's just like it's an explanation for how certain universes can crop up. That doesn't necessarily mean that we don't have like an ad if on infinitum multiverse in the MCU. I think the whole idea of branch timeline is just how certain universes can crop up. They can start from a branch timeline, but that's not necessarily how all universes start from. Because if you looked at the universe in 838, that like where do you branch off from to have like X-Men, Fantastic Four, what like at a certain point there are just and like the way that the universe is designed is so foreign from like 616 in the MCU. I think there is some. I think the assumption is that the multiverse is similar to how the multiverse is displayed in Marvel Comics in the DC universe.
That's a subtlety I don't think they've really just laid out. Where, again, it's they've said it many times that this one different thing happened in this multiverse. That one very specific different thing happened. We've done it all the time, and like with the Loki variants in the Loki show, and then I don't know, we've all the what ifs had kind of started with what if this one specific thing happened differently, and then we're looking at, you know, the ripple effect.
Yeah, because really, if you look, I bet you if we look through a lot of the what if comics, it they don't necessarily start from like yeah they'll start from one base, but there'd probably be plenty of other issues in what if comics throughout it, whatever run you look
But
at.
I'm saying the what if comics are, it's just like, it's like, what if these specific things happen differently, and then we go forward from that. There hasn't been like a whole, you know, those are more disconnected. This isn't like part of a grander universe, and we're saying these events, like, no, this is this universe, but then this happened differently, and then we're going forward.
I get that, but I just feel like it. I think there. I think for what if, in order to have as enough creative liberties as possible, there the whole idea of like, okay, what if X, Y, or Z happens and this universe goes? Because I think that part of it's like I understand where you're coming from, where it's like, oh, there's like other things that happen that differed beyond just the initial prompt of each episode. But I think my issue is that if you were to kind of go with that like strict adherence, I feel like you had the issue of like the first episode of What If season one, the Captain Carter, you kind of just recycle MCU plots or arcs, but with different character situations. So it's like the freshness, uniqueness of what if isn't as realized if you just kind of stick with just here's the one. I get from a technical basis, it should just be here's what happens, and then that's the divergence. But you kind of implicitly, as you had these stories go, there'll be a million other different divergences to make a little bit more of a creatively interesting, story.
All right. As Jacob wants us to know that he actually likes season one better. I mean, that's what I'm. Here's the thing: despite my weird hangups with the multiverse and the MCU and stuff, it's season one did have kind of more like the disconnected feel until the very end that I was looking for in What If, which I really enjoyed, and that's kind of the fun thing about What If, where again you have like these. It's very much like a new adventure every issue sort of vibe, and this season, the thing I was kind of I love Captain Carter, and I did like the amount of times that we got her in this. But by the same token, it's like it feels a little mandated that we have to do a big crossover event, and only we're threading the needle a little further. And I can see the advantage of that, but I also see like we're kind of I don't know. It feels like that it suggests that maybe we don't have as much in the tank as we thought, or either that, or it feels like we need it to go to this place. We need to make it an event. If we keep doing that, we need to make it event after event. It's going to be well when we do something like potentially like a Secret Wars, then we've already kind of we've had them team up a bunch of times. It becomes less special.
Well, I think there is a novelty in like maybe the real like the Captain Carter from What If showing up in live
No,
action.
no, that's fine. That's great. But
Yeah, no. So, but I think here's the thing. Like in regards to your point, I think I get your point about the whole like crossover thing because season that's one of my issues. All the episodes for standalone, one and done. And I think for the issues you have with season two, those were the issues that are in season one, and I think that's just kind of the whole thing. For What If, I think for Marvel, their logic, I don't know if it's specifically from them or Disney, a bit of both, or maybe neither of them really intentionally. It's that for the What If stories, you know, in order for them to feel like, oh, we want people to watch every episode, because let's compare, say, What If to Visions. Visions, I think, is a great addition to Disney Plus.
it's a good anthology.
Yeah, it's a great anthology.
Yeah,
It's not really What If; it's just kind of like short. But I think for What If, the way it's structured, the way it's done, it's like, hey, this is some. We're trying to make it that each episode is like must watch or like must see because there's like a bigger story that's threaded. That was more apparent in the case of season one. I think season two does a better job does a better job to hold off on that until the very end. And for What If, it's like because I think part of it's like because What If for Marvel it's part of technically part of the MCU, so you want everything to kind of like be watched or be seen to lead up to the bigger finale with Secret Wars. And considering that we have Jeffrey Wright voicing Uatu, and Jeffrey Wright's a popular actor who I am betting dollars with donuts he's going to eventually show up in the MCU in live action, CGI, all that stuff. Um, it's probably such that for Marvel, they want people to watch each and every episode because then it builds up to a larger story because that's just how the MCU is structured, for the most part. And I think maybe with the restructuring that Marvel's doing, with their TV shows and whatnot, maybe for season three of What If, maybe they can hold off, like at least with how this season ends, maybe they can hold off on having like a big wide crossover thing, and maybe do the more individual standalone stories with maybe like a thread that's very like in the background.
all right. Okay, you know what? Let's break it. Start breaking it down. I'm sure a lot of this is going to come up again once we kind of go through it. So let's. Okay, so episode one. What if Nebula joined the Nova Corps?
Uh, I really like this episode a lot, just in terms of like aesthetic and style. that's what I appreciate is that like for this season, like they really made an effort to try to stick to a certain tone or atmosphere. And this episode really does a good job of making like this is like a very Blade Runner, you know, cyberpunk
The
noir.
noir Blade Runner kind of detective story. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and Nebula just fits really well in that environment because Kerrigan has that sort of husky voice for Nebula, and it fits really well with the overwrought like noir detective monologue.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like with What If you have like two to three kind of things they usually like to hit, if not all in one episode, or at the very least over the course of like like just the batch of episodes that they do. Which is you want to hit a genre, you want to hit in this case kind of the noir detective sci-fi Blade Runner kind of thing. You know, we want to hit that. We want to hit something that you would love to have seen in the MCU. So kind of like the wish fulfillment aspect in regards to the what if sometimes. And I guess I'm trying to think if there is a third thing or not, but see, like those. I was just say it's two things until I can think of the third one. But essentially, you have like you have like these kind of things you want to hit in each what if, and yeah. So I feel here we've done that very well with the aesthetic. We haven't really done really well with the aesthetic. Our what if of choice here is you basically what if Rowan successfully betrayed Thanos, which basically negates a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy almost entirely. From what we know, it happened like years in advance, so presumably it's before Peter Quill even really entered our story for that.
Mm.
So yeah, so Nebula, she's kind of taken in by the Nova Corps, and we've killed off Yondu again.
Yeah, but the way he's killed off with this, it's very apropos for this type of story.
Yeah, with the noir, it's kind of like look at iRobot for example. It's like we've killed off James Cromwell. It's like it doesn't really matter how he died, but it's like the fact that he's dead and he's leaving us the breadcrumb trail. So if poor Yondu can't catch a break, and everyone's taking his fin. No
He,
respect for the dead. We just keep taking the things off the dead bodies.
hey, it's you really want anyone else to have Yondu's fin?
Oh God, no. Well, maybe Kraglin, but he's not in the story.
Yeah. No, what I really appreciate about this episode is that you had sort of this murder mystery plot with Yondu, and I really like sort of the reasoning for the atmosphere is like in defense from Ronan, attacking Xandar. Xandar just has this protective layer, and because of it, there's this kind of like level of decay or level of suffering that the citizens of Xandar are going through because of this like protective shielding. They can't even see the sun; it's always dark um and it really kind of you really get that like feeling, especially when you see like the scenes of the protests that are going on.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I remember the third thing I was thinking of. Basically, the replicating the events of the movie. Those are kind of like those are the three things. It's the events of the movie, it's the genre, and it's basically having something you would love to have seen in the MCU. Okay, but yes, the whole closing the gate plan on Xander, the whole thing, it feels very much because a lot of what if memory serves was written. I mean, it's been a while. I can't remember how much what if was in the can before the pandemic or not.
So actually, so I think I remember seeing in like a headline or excerpt and it reads like the first two seasons writing wise was done because I remember they mentioned that they didn't address like Sam Wilson as Cap because this
Yeah.
both seasons were written or done. I don't know if like animation wise, but at least in the writing part before the events or before production was started or was going through for Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Mhm. Yeah. So, uh, well, yeah, there's that, and there's like the whole thing. I think there was like some kerfuffle with Spider-Man, if memory serves, but
No, it wasn't a kerfuffle. It's like AC Bradley like had this idea or had the script for a really dark what if episode that
yeah,
the logline the pitch was like children of men, like it's Spider-Man and
yeah,
children of men.
yeah,
So yeah. So that I wish we get that episode sometime in the future. I don't know how dark it would be to have that kind of long line, but
All right, let's. Here's the thing. I guess what I'm getting at is that with the whole, there's some parallels to one, a little bit of pandemic life going on there, but also a little bit of Endgame with the whole 5 years later thing in terms of like Xandar 5 years later after being sealed off. And there's no Guardians of the Galaxy to save us. The only way we're gonna stop Ronan. I don't even know if Ronan has the Infinity Stone. I think it's just Ronan from the looks of things. Then again, I mean that's the thing. He was going up to Thanos, but it's like not at that specific point in the movie. It just seems to be like he just kind of like knocked off Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
So in the episode, we have Gamora looking into the mystery, and she teams up with I think initially part of us are at least for me. I initially was thinking like, okay, she's gonna team up with like Peter Quill, who's probably been captured or something, but no, 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 it's Yanrog, which makes a lot of sense given the whole this whole affiliation with the Kree.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the great Jude Law doing a great job here. He does excel at voice work. Looking at Rise of the Guardians, different Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
And here, we plug him into the plot. He's very has some good chemistry with Karen Gillan.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna be further part of the Disney family with his involvement in Star Wars Skeleton Crew.
Mm-hmm. So after Nebula is almost killed in a very dark way, like they're beating her and electrocuting her to death, and she kind of takes the old fugitive exit.
Yeah, I love just how beaten she is when she gets back to Howard the Duck's casino, and Howard the Duck is just so greatly
Okay,
used.
well, yeah, we really should take a moment to talk about it. So seriously, Howard the Duck in the MCU has been such a perfect resurgence and redemption for that character on film, and this show, I think Howard Duck's no joke has been like the biggest success of What If in terms of I want more Howard the Duck after seeing what they've done with him in the show.
Yeah, you wondered though if you would want to see Howard the Duck in live action because I feel like it would kind of be like a weird like. No, I guess you have a talking raccoon. A talking duck isn't that big of a leap.
And yeah, we've had him in like technically 4 MCU movies.
Yeah, but I think like him doing like active like being a prominent part of the story. I don't. Well,
I mean, I think What If has been an audition for that, Rohit. That's what I'm saying. Is like, yeah, he's got probably again. He could be kind of a Phil. He could be kind of an equivalent for Rocket Raccoon, which essentially is what he is in this episode. It's like, yeah,
no man. Howard the
it could
Duck.
work.
Seth Green voicing Howard the Duck
Mm-hmm.
as he's just shooting off at a few kings in Secret War.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's doable. He did in Infinity War. He shot. He was in the army scene.
yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was in like 3 Guardians movies and Endgame. He's in 4 movies.
Dang.
So yeah, he is absolutely. We could. Howard. Again, Howard has shown some great potential. Him as a casino owner is gold, and it's kind of a fun way we kind of put the Guardians of Xandar in this case. We got Korg, we got Meek, we got Groot as like a blackjack dealer, and Nebula with the Yondu fin on. So it's a great visual. First off, it's a great little it's a great
I,
little kind of
I,
unconventional team.
I love how Nebula got Howard to finally fight by saying that she'll prove his casino license
The
or liquor
liquor
license.
license,
Yeah.
so confiscate his liquor license. Yeah, Korg got a lot of FaceTime this season. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, T's got to do something. All right, so let's see. So we have like the reveal that the Nova Prime and the Glenn Close character. She is well, at least in the movie Glenn Close. She's she was pulling the strings. She's basically ratting them out to Ronan to let him in and take down the whole place. And they have this great, very simple plan, like just slam the door on Ronan. That kills him. It's pretty solid.
That's how you if you can defeat bugs by just slamming them in between the doors,
Mm-hmm.
in between the frame of the door. That's how
Yeah.
you do Ronan.
Pretty much. So like overall, again, this one, this one kind of hits the beats I'm looking for in a What If. Where okay, it's a standalone tale of intrigue. It's got some fun. It's got the genre. It's got a little bit of everything and some. I don't know. It's just this was a fun one.
Oh yeah,
I thought it was a good. I thought it was like it wasn't the. I think I was very much the most anticipated one I had was the Christmas episode, which we'll get to.
Mhm.
because that's what the whole marketing for this thing was. It's like, essentially the 12 days, almost the, well, I guess in this case, the 9 days of December sort of thing we were doing with, What If this season.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, it was, that was the one I was like counting down eagerly, like, oh, when's it gonna happen? When's it gonna come? I should realize, oh, it's probably gonna be on Christmas Eve.
Mhm.
But anyway, so that brings us to episode 2, which is one of my 3 favorites this season. But I have 3 favorite episodes this season. This is one of them. What if Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes? Love this one.
Oh, that was a really great episode.
Yeah, there's a lot to love on this one. It's a great setting. For me, I live for this. This is the what if premise I live for, Rohit. This is what I'm talking about here. Okay, it's like very simple. It's something very much you would. The what ifs that I want to see throughout this show, and the ones that I really want to see in season 3 even more so. We got a couple of them here and there throughout between both shows, but it's a very memorable choice that happens in the MCU, but we see it go the other way. That's really all I want. So here it's like, what if Yandu did deliver Peter? You know?
Yeah, and it basically it's just kind of like a proto Avengers formed in the like late '80s.
That's
To
what I'm saying. You have the cool factor with the '80s Avengers,
Mhm.
and you have like a what if that's something you want to see in there, and I don't know, it really works.
It's really fun this episode because you have really cool character like combinations in terms
Mm-hmm.
of like characters that never really interact with each other in the main MCU timeline interacting in this episode. Like
Again,
this,
we're getting things that you would not see in the MCU, at least not until maybe circa like a Secret Wars. Until like a huge event sort of thing, you're not really
yeah,
going to see this.
yeah. Also, what I really appreciate is that you get to like flesh out or have like interesting character stuff happen, not just in terms of plot beats, but like characterization and all that. Like seeing like a young Hope
Mm-hmm.
and Hank kind of being like sort of this episode is all by Hank like being
Being
like
crusty.
yeah, crusty and just being also being endearing and being like and having a level of compassion and empathy towards like a young Peter Quill.
Yeah, I love me some Michael Douglas, and I thought he did an exceptional job in this episode.
Yeah. Also, I really appreciated like when the proto Avengers are initially attacking Peter Quill, like their dynamic, it's not like just basically a ripoff of like the 2012 Avengers. They each have their dynamic is very different, but
Yeah,
similar in the way that they gel.
I mean they're kind of the dad Avengers for the most part.
They're not that bad.
No. Dad, in terms of like most of them are fathers, and like
Oh,
it's
the
the
dad.
generation of like
Oh,
it's like the
okay.
parental mentor. Think about it.
Yeah.
It's the whole lineup of the team. Practically, almost everyone. They're
Mhm.
very much like the paternal, like the mothers and the fathers, or the mother figures and and the literal fathers of
Yeah.
the MC, with the exception of the Winter Soldier. Really, it's like they're all thinking of it. Like you have T'Challa's dad. You have essentially Captain Marvel's mentor with Wendy Lawson. You have
Yeah, Bill Foster, who was like a
kind
surrogate
of like
father
Ghost is
for
surrogate.
Ghost.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
Howard
Yeah,
Stark.
yeah. Peter Quill's dad ego. Yeah, you have Hank Pym. No, it's
Yeah.
yeah. Although Thor, I was very surprised when Thor showed up. And then when he did, it's like, oh, this is really interesting. I wish that like how people say like since
Well, a part of me was kind of thinking for a moment, could just given the paternal theme, is it gonna be Odin? But no, Thor's cool though. It's gonna do.
no, I now like how how people talk about like, oh, I want to see like like something to an MCU thing that takes place in early 3A. I want further adventures of this like Avengers team because they
Yeah,
seem like such a like there's they echo like and the Avengers in 616, but they're different enough to where like they could have different stories and different like outcomes. Like imagine like when like imagine what they would do in like the Captain Marvel story. That would be cool and interesting. But
yeah. So '80s Avengers. I mean, honestly, I think deep down the reason I really like the whole '80s Avengers kind of idea is like, I mean, I really would have loved to have had Ant-Man on the core Avengers team, like back like the comic, the initial like when they originally formed the team, you have Ant-Man on the team. So this and another episode, we kind of glimpse like what that might look like, and to some degree, I'm kind of getting that here. and I'm liking it. And also, like it's in a lot of things I really have loved in the MCU phases that we've gotten before. Like we see, kind of the Shield era, Peggy Carter and Howard Stark. Like
Mhm.
run the whole operation there. And obviously, Ant Man gets called back into the fray. Big thing, literally Goliath. We get to see Bill Foster in the suit, which again, something we'd never be able to see ordinarily.
Oh, and we see Winter Soldier in this, which I was. Did you?
I
I
yeah, I have I'm a little on the fence about Winter Soldier.
I'm surprised they didn't go for like Red Guardian, especially since like Red Guardian would have been a more active, public or public enough, superhero.
It's
And
funny you mention. I don't know if I assume you've heard about this. You saw the clip, right?
yes, I saw the clip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so for the audience out there, yeah. So apparently, it's just weird how this keeps happening, where we keep having these episodes that get repurposed in the different seasons. Where this season we have an episode that's supposed to be last season, and apparently there was going to be a Red Guardian, Winter Soldier kind of essentially buddy comedy episode or buddy adventure that has been moved to season 3, which it's kind of a shame because I would have loved to have seen that episode, but by the same token, though, I don't know. Maybe it was for a purpose. Maybe I don't know if that's it is interesting though. You're right. Red Guardian might have been a really would have been a really solid choice for this, and I don't know if it would have been made more sense or not. It probably would have, just from the sounds of things. Because the big the big thing I'm still very curious about is the whole like Red Guardian is under the delusion that he and Captain America have tussled in the past, which it's completely impossible. We address this in the Black Widow movies. Like, wait a minute, he was on ice during the '80s. What are you talking about?
I'd be very curious if that ever get pays off, and this isn't just like a
Yeah.
uh and Secret Wars. It'd be crazy if it's like Steve comes out, it's like, oh yeah, I interacted with and fought Red Guardian like as I was returning the Infinity Stones or something
I
like that.
God, I would love that so much if that happened. Oh, you see, I love Red Guardians. Love the idea of like everything about just the take on that character. The Russians' answer to the super soldier, and he's just this. He's just this hammy version of Captain America in his shadow, thinking he's like he was my contemporary. We were like rivals, more than we were like enemies.
No, and also for me, it's like Winter Soldier was explicitly like a covert operative, and I think for like a
Yeah.
big alien threat, like you'd want like a more public, like you wouldn't want the Western nations to know that this like covert spy actually exists.
So here's the thing. No, I'm sorry. Go on.
Because like the whole thing in Winter Soldier is like, oh, he's like it's kind of like a
He's
ghost.
the guy that killed Kennedy, essentially. So he's
Well, it's all like speculation. We don't like know for it's all like because the way Widow talked about him in that like in the hospital and Winter Soldier's like, oh, we don't even know if he exists. It's just been like there's
ghost
someone.
stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really. I'm saying later, and then later on, we show like the little montage of all like the Zola file and everything. We saw like it was implied that he's behind like a lot of the unsolvable things, like what happened to this. Like we revealed the Starks, but also it was implied that he killed Kennedy and did a whole bunch of other horrible stuff.
Mhm.
Regardless, that's the thing. So look, I love the inclusion. Just given my affinity, and I think a lot of our affinities for Captain America, Winter Soldier, I do get excited when we see Winter Soldier, especially that era of Winter Soldier. But by the same token, though, when he showed up, and they addressed it in the episode, I'm glad they did. It took a while for me to kind of like glom onto it, but I still don't love it. It's just like, even if Peggy Carter and Howard Stark kind of mention, even she's bringing up like Howard, it looks like she's smart enough to realize, okay, that's Bucky. But still, even if they're gonna say, look, even if it were true, he's gone. Like that's the episode obviously goes somewhere with it, but it still feels like a buy, like a pretty big buy. We're not going to stop everything and actually kind of talk about this and kind of address that before we do anything else. I don't know.
Yeah, I think like
'Cause that's a pretty big deal that, okay, that's Bucky, and we know it's Bucky,
and
instead of
and
like the
like
whole reveal, like,
and
could it
he's
be?
he's gone in the winds and there's no mention. Like it would have been interesting if maybe like if like Howard and Peggy's like, oh, like Bucky's out in the wind, let's find him, and that could
Yeah,
have been like a tease for like a follow up in season 3.
yeah, maybe, but yeah, it's. Yeah. Well, and to Jacob's point here, maybe they couldn't get Dave Hart. Well, I mean, unless I missed my guess, and again, I heard. Here's the thing: Jamie Costa, who's an impressionist, he posted the whole like what if thing. Now I don't know if that means he's in that episode in a different role or if he was Dave Hart. Because unfortunately, It sounds like David Harbour, but then again, Jamie Costa might actually be that good. I don't think it's really hard to get David Harbour to do voice work on instinct.
Well,
That's my personal.
I mean, he's gonna be voicing Frankenstein in Creature Commandos, so
Yeah,
I
so that by that logic, you'd think like I think we could probably get David Harbour to like be his character in What If. So I'm pretty sure like in the way they record a lot of this is like some, at least for
and
seasons 1 and 2 they record both seasons, didn't they?
mm,
That was
maybe
my impression. I thought they kind of recorded them back to back.
I mean, I thought that they had the writing thing. I thought they wrote both seasons of the first two seasons would have back to back, and I think for animation that like because then if they did, then you wouldn't have like the thing where it's like the first season had an episode that then get moved to the second season, and then the second season had an episode that get like you. I feel like you wouldn't have that if both seasons were done back to back. Do you get what I mean?
Right. Well, either way, I mean, it doesn't feel like it was an issue they couldn't get Harbour. I think it was probably an issue of just like they wanted Winter Soldier in there just because of the '80s thing. I don't know. Frankly, I don't know. Okay, because it makes sense. I don't know. The more I think about it, Red Guardian was make a lot more sense than the Winter Soldier in this situation. I don't know. It was a fault of the writing. Who knows? But regardless, the cool things that we do have in this episode. Also, again, it's the episode's hitting like a lot of things that are just like things I would definitely want to see because I love King T'Chaka. Just anytime we can do anything with him, especially like this version of him, so putting him on the team is just awesome to me.
Yeah,
Um, let's see. So yes, Peter Quill, he's just hanging out on Coney Island, and we're doing some fun stuff there, and like Hank Pym's going there doing his ant shtick, and with the cotton candy, and regardless, they have a nice little battle there. They put him in the Hulk cage.
yeah. I was surprised. It was interesting for how Hope got involved in this story, and her connection with Peter Quill.
Yeah, they both have lost their mothers.
Yeah, and I guess they're both also probably around similar ages then.
Yeah,
So,
no, all that tracks.
mhm.
Because when Ant Man's last mission was during the cold, it was during the '80s.
Yeah, 89. Yeah,
Yeah. So we're battling Ego. Of course, Kurt Russell he returns, and boy does he deliver. I mean, dear God, that is absolutely Ego the Living Planet. Man, that is him. Like, is the whole I'm spreading my essence all throughout the galaxy. Like, they're very on point. And Kurt
yeah.
Russell barely ever ages. I mean, in terms of the voice and everything too. So he absolutely you can absolutely buy him playing the younger version of himself.
No, I definitely. I appreciated sort of like going back to Hope is like how Hope connected to Peter through the like the music.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it kind of leads to a little bit of shenanigans where like Hope like releases Peter and then like all the Avengers are just trying to find Peter throughout the base, which is kind of fun.
I mean, it's weird. In What If we've had two occasions of this. Hope has a thing for Peters. She just has a thing for Peter Parker. She's got a thing for Peter Quill. She just likes the character's named Peter.
Hope?
Yeah,
Did she had a thing for Peter Parker?
yeah. Remember in the zombie episode? Yeah.
I thought she was just being like
Well, I mean, I don't mean like a thing. I just mean
it's like
she has a like a kindness towards the Peter to all these characters' names. She has like a connection with these characters named Peter.
that's okay. Okay. I
I
get
mean, look, if you want to take it that way, I mean, I guess you
No,
could.
no, no. I got what you
I mean,
mean.
there's an age difference, but still, I don't know.
No, no.
Who are we to
Once
judge? I don't know.
again, no. Moving on.
But you see what I mean, though. Is the fact that she's like, oh man, she's really nice to these heroes named Peter in the MCU.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. So great moment at the gravesite at the Meredith Quill's gravesite with Hank Pym, talking the kid down, and also meanwhile Howard Stark breaking through the Winter Soldier. But it does make sense though. You would want someone who was there with him during the war to actually get through to him like that. I mean, it was a 50-50 shot. It'd either be Peggy Carter or Howard Stark to actually get through a bucket like that. So that I can buy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Yeah, that's nice. And of course, we take on Ego, and Ego Peter learns that Ego killed his mother, and boy, oh boy, does he he lets him have it.
Oh yeah, and I'm glad they kept track of the continuity and had to refer back to the seedlings that like Ego planted
Yep.
all across the planets.
A little Thor expo about the seedlings, which came in handy.
Yeah,
This is going to sound this very serendipitous. So I recently I watched the old Yu Yu Hakusho because I'd seen like half out the halfway point to it, and then recently I hunkered down and bought the box set. I watched the whole series, and so it's just so funny that after I do that, What If comes around, and we have like, essentially what is a spirit gun, which Peter Quill uses to
oh
take out
yeah,
Ego.
no,
It's like
yeah,
very distinct. I forget what the year is for the manga for Yu Yu Hakusho, but it's the spirit gun.
yeah.
Undeniably, this is like a giant blue blast of energy. Just a giant concussive blast with the finger point. Anyway,
Yeah.
so a little victory. The victory dinner is nice. I love that we're doing kind of like a more homey version of the shawarma. Very nice. And
Yeah.
they're going to Ego, taking the fight to Ego.
And like Ant Man and Hank Pym is like kind of adopting
Terrible cook.
that and also adopting Peter Quill as and having him part of the family.
Oh, I want to talk about one of my favorite things too with the pairings in this episode. Best little Easter egg is Hank Pym and Wendy Lawson. They got a lot of chemistry together, and that's intentional because very famously you have Michael Douglas and Annette Bening in the American President, the movie where basically it's Michael Douglas playing the president. He has a relationship with Annette Bening in that movie, so they have kind of built in cinematic chemistry that's coming through here.
Oh, that's a good call.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw she was in that, I realized like, oh hey, Annette Bening, and the fact that they were actually having like a little bit of banter there is like, oh man, that's really nice. That's a nice callback. And in my head, I mean, she's still having that banter at the table. I think we're in building this little family here. I think Hank's found somebody.
Just Janet Van Dyne just stuck in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
Hank is shacking up with this Kree. This Kree.
Okay, two things. One, what if? So let's just say probably doesn't find Janet, but even if he did, remember, and three, they had needs.
Oh man.
Well, she got Bill Murray, he got Annette Bening. It's how it works.
Both classic 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that brings us to the next episode. What if Happy Hogan saved Christmas? And before we get into this, Jacob says the Yu Yu Hakusho started December of 1990. So, okay, I guess I missed the cutoff there. But still, I don't know. Aesthetically, it feels like that's got to be a Yu Yu Hakusho, even if it's not like
I
tiny.
mean, pointing a gun, having a blast of energy come out of it is kind of like a common trope in like a lot of like what genre stuff.
I get fair enough, but I'm just saying like the way in which that was animated. It's like oh man, it's like the latter Yu Yu Hakusho spirit guns, which are like just huge blast of blue energy coming out of the finger like that. But you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if Happy Hogan Singers? This is the other favorite I had of the three that I mentioned there. So this is the big one
Mm-hmm.
that was advertised for the holidays. Already, just this is something I got to be a little sparing on this one because this is something definitely Tiki and I are going to be covering on Christmas in July. Going in depth beat by beat on this one, but it's fun that we found a way to do a Christmas episode via in terms of genre here we're doing like essentially a Die Hard MCU kind of crossover, which is kind of a cross between Die Hard and the MCU, which interestingly is not the first time we've done like the movie set around Christmas but not like a hugely Christmas movie. We did Iron Man 3. Iron Man 3 is essentially in the shadow of Lethal Weapon, which, of course, Christmas movie.
And it makes sense because the movie's written and directed by Shane Black, who wrote
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon and
Mm-hmm.
has done movies that set around the Christmas time with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Mm-hmm.
The Next Quiz is not set around Christmas. I remember that movie doesn't have any scenes.
I know it breaks the trend.
Yeah, but
Good movie though.
But with this episode, Happy Hogan taking the John McClane role, and Sam Rockwell being the Hans Gruber.
That was my favorite thing ever. And this is okay. Not
Yeah,
only we're bringing Justin Hammer back, we're gonna make him Hans Gruber. It's like that's perfect.
and like Darcy is like kind of like the Rachel Bell Johnson or like the
She's Argyle mixed with
Argyle.
Al Pal.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Al Pal is what the Reginald Bell Johnson character was called. But yeah,
Mhm.
only cherries instead of Twinkies.
Yeah.
Giant maraschino cherries, I guess.
Hmm.
So yeah, and basically, I guess the what if memory serves, the what if here is like, what if Justin Hammer, got revenge? What if he returned?
Yeah, and I think it was probably like maybe sometime probably before
Yeah, this is set right before Ultron. That's when this is set.
yeah, and you have Darcy as an intern for Stark Industries.
I'm sure Thor got her that job.
And Thor got her that job because Jade kind of like forced
Like, come
forced it.
on, just like poking him, like, come on, help Darcy out. Like, oh, right, Stark. Can Darcy have an internship thing? All right, why not?
Stark like probably gave her like a really well paying internship just because Darcy like made fun of Thor in like Stark interview of her. That's like, all right, you're in, kid.
That makes sense. I can totally buy that.
Hmm.
All right, so here's the thing. This episode's fun in a number of ways. And like, Happy Hogan, we addressed this in Iron Man 3, which of course said essentially, I mean, it's set around where this thing is because we're kind of between Avengers and Ultron, so essentially Iron Man 3 falls somewhere in there, and this is kind of in that line of thought where Happy Hogan was kind of in his career was a joke because he was like Iron Man needing a body. We took the old ad, the hilarious runner through the comics of like, oh yes, Iron Man is Tony Stark's bodyguard, and you got to imagine like, yeah, what is that going to make Happy Hogan? He's gonna be made to feel really silly.
Hmm.
After a while, and that's we're kind of living that here. He's like he has all these security concerns that are very valid, and no one's giving him time of day, and it's up to Happy Hogan to save that day. And he gets injected with Hulk blood.
Yeah, and he becomes so
Freak.
he yeah, I didn't it was so
Did you not know about Freak at all?
I did not know. I didn't
Oh
know.
yeah, I knew about Freak. I was shocked when they did Freak, but I was like at the start, I was like, wait a minute, could that be? And then when they did, like, oh my god, here's the thing. He doesn't look Freak. There's two characters in Marvel Comics named Freak. I mean, at least two main ones. Okay, Happy Hogan being the
Mhm.
one, the original, and there's a Spider-Man character called Freak. Now, I don't know exactly what happened here because if you look at the look of Freak here, Freak wasn't purple or with the orange little vein things at all in those comics. That was like a Hulk aesthetic they applied to it here. He's basically just looks like a rounded, he's just like a flesh colored, just kind of hulking kind of guy in ripped clothes. That's essentially what Freak is. Not that exciting. Now, Spider-Man's Freak, however, is a Spider-Man villain, and after One More Day in the Brand New Day era, they were trying to give us some new Spider-Man villains. You had a character called Freak, and he was like a burn victim. He's kind of like scarred up. He looked kind of ugly. So, it really feels like they took they took the modern like the Spider-Man Freak and they mixed it with the Happy Hogan Freak. So I don't know if someone got their Wikipedia articles like mixed up
Well,
on that one
it
or
could be
not.
it could be a thing that just like
I think you're right. Go on.
they decided to synthesize both. And just made for a more interesting adaptation.
Yeah, I think honestly what I think. I think they just like, okay, let's just do the original, like a nod to the original Happy Hogan Freak thing. But how do we actually make it practical? Well, it's going to be Hulk blood that turns him into that. And I
Well,
guess it's like, well, what colors have not been taken yet? So I guess they were looking at that, and then maybe combination of
no,
like like something abomination esque.
because isn't remind me like for you know how you have the knockoff Avengers merch in She Hulk.
Yeah.
Is the Hulk there purple?
What you mean in She Hulk?
Yeah, the like when they have the knockoff Avengers merch.
Oh, I don't think he was purple in that.
Okay, because if he wasn't, or if it is, because I think it's probably the thing where it's like, oh, like a Hulk is like a green guy in purple pants.
Hmm.
So probably the joke is like, oh, it's the inverse. It's like Happy Hogan is like a bargain bin Hulk.
Well, that's a good idea. I mean, I
And
want to be clear. I don't mind them redesign because again, the original Freak design was barely it. I think it was a good idea if they're gonna do like a Hulk thing with them. That does make a lot of sense for like the Freak character. Though
and
the orange veins are a little weird, but I'll go with it. But yeah, because they don't want him to look like Thanos is the problem.
yeah,
That's the
that's probably
that's
it.
the
Yeah,
thing. And there you go. Well, wait. Do you mean, um, Jacob? Do you mean the infraggable Crunk from Dexter's Lab? The Justice Friends segment from Dexter's Lab. Oh, okay. So you literally mean the amazing bulk. I only bring that up because the infraggable Crunk is actually purple. It's the only reason I bring that up.
that's how you do a legally distinct Hulk parody. Have it be
Yes.
purple.
Yep, that would be purple. It's a mockbuster also. Okay, well there you go.
Yeah,
Well, regardless, the point being, however we get them, it's refreshing and it was a great surprise and it's a nice deep pool as well. I mean, I won't get in. I won't break down all the following. Here's I want to save a little bit of the in depth stuff for down the line. But let's just say I do love all the Christmas gags with the Avengers.
yeah, and also it leads to a very fun Hulk Hogan pun.
Yeah, that is that is great. Yep. Let's see. So I mean, overall, again, I think we're definitely feeling this one, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
This one, I would you say this one was maybe? Let me. Do you think this one might be at least the biggest success of the bunch, or do you think it's just like
It's my favorite of the 9 episodes.
I'm saying? It might be my favorite too. Again, it's in my of my it's in my top three. I think it's probably my favorite, honestly. But
Mhm.
okay. Definitely in terms of the marketing angle, this whole like premiere for this season, it was definitely I think it definitely lived up to exactly what they were going for. And
Yeah.
premiering on Christmas Eve doesn't hurt either.
Mhm.
Okay, so episode 4: What if Iron Man crashed into the Grandmaster? So this was the holdover from last season. This is
Yeah.
like the whole like because Gamora just randomly shows up at that finale, and this is where we would have introduced her in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing: in the finale of the first season, when we glimpsed this Gamora and we saw like Tony Stark in like a Sakaran Hulkbuster esque armor, I I was very intrigued. It kind of did its job. I'm like, oh man, I have got to know what happens. Like the idea of Iron Man on Sakaar and like the Gladiator situation, that's really exciting to me. I want to know how that happens. Like a Gamora that has slayed Thanos. This is really interesting. How does that happen? And then we get this episode, and again, it's got a great beginning with the what if itself, but I don't know. This one's it's fun, but it's a bit iffy for me. Like
It's
yeah, go on.
if I'll be honest, this is my least favorite of the season
Right?
because it just doesn't really do anything fun and exciting. Like the whole race thing, it's
Yeah.
cool, but it's like such at the
It
very.
goes on too long, right?
It's not for me. It's not even just goes on too long. It's just like at the very end, like you just kind of have like just like a retread. You just basically retread like Thor Ragnarok, but have Iron Man in Thor's place. And for whatever reason, like Jeff Goldblum's like I don't know if it's the voice direction or the lines. I just was really annoyed with the Grandmaster. Like Thor Ragnarok. I don't. I feel like I don't love as much.
Isn't it ironic that in this episode we kind of took like the main criticism of like the Watiti Thor films and we just kind of leaned into it?
Yeah, like I for whatever
But this
reason.
one's all comedy.
No, it's just like for me, it's like uh I don't know what it was. You know what I think what it was is just like there just wasn't like a really as good of a hook because like it's like Iron Man post Avengers just on this planet and he's just interacting with Korg, Meek, and Valkyrie, and then Gamora comes in and
Mhm.
Gamora is just her pre-Guardian self. So it's just kind of like
Is it weird that the best hook for this episode is only the very beginning and the very end? So literally the what if itself, and then just like, oh my god, what if Tony Stark got brought to Thanos that fast? Like those
yeah,
are the two moments, and then they're gone.
and then the quote unquote exciting thing, the whole race thing is like I feel like the race could have been more exciting and more fun if it was the whole episode and you had other like cameos from other like Marvel characters in the MCU
Yeah,
and the race, or just in the
it's
audience.
here's my issue with the episode. So again, like I said, initially the sell for me just visually, just in seeing this whole Sakaran Iron Man armor was like, okay, Iron Man in a gladiator situation, that sounds kind of fun, even if it's just like a purely visual, kind of visceral, kind of like you'll see some like an action thing. It's like Iron Man, basically it's like taking like an even keel guy, putting him in a barbarian situation. It's like taking like, hey, there's kind of our genius billionaire philanthropist playboy, and we're putting him you put him in a Thor position here, which usually he's not in. Like that's kind of interesting to me. And then putting him in this like cool armor he has to build from scratch. That's also coming. That was a nice part of the episode. But again, like he's gonna build that, and what's he gonna do with it? He's gonna race in an oversized chariot. Really? That's he needs a giant Hulkbuster armor for that. I mean, I like that it turns into a. Don't get me. I like that it turns into a car, but it's like it doesn't need to turn into a car though.
Yeah, and it's
The
like,
only reason it does that, okay, is like the only reason it does that is like we want to do a nod to Iron Man 2, which is cute, but it's like, come on, guys. It's like,
yeah, that's the thing. It's doing kind of a hybrid of Iron Man 2 and Thor Ragnarok.
yeah,
Like,
I
it's
get
kind of the
that,
least interesting combination of if you want to like mix in plots or elements, like those two films I feel like combined don't make like they don't have the best of either one, if that makes sense.
Now, as far as the voice work goes, I can respect that Goldblum's having a blast. He's having a lot of fun. It feels like they may have given him maybe a little too much free reign in the booth, or maybe like some either that or they gave him some pretty standard jokes. But I do. Sorry. The thing is, with with aside from the Goldblum stuff, it feels like we are leaning into kind of this weird Watitiism where it's like, okay, like the golden rule of the Watiti stuff is New Zealander Kiwi accents are funny. So Topaz is just like, okay, there's just Topaz being kind of deadpan with a Kiwi accent, and it's kind of funny, which it's not really to me.
Yeah, the thing is, it's like YTD humor is funny when YTD's the one to know how to
Yeah,
write in the way that, like, yeah, I can certainly, I'd be very curious because here's the thing: what's crazy about it is like, um, oh, actually, what's not crazy is that if you look at say the first season, when you deal with like the side, like the cosmic side of things, interact with the Guardians characters you see in the Guardians movies, what if doesn't do any of the James Gunn humor, and I think that's why those episodes don't like ring out in a hollow way or an annoying way. Whereas this, it's like clearly, what if writers don't know or don't know what is the appeal of YTD's humor or know how to
it's like,
do it.
okay, the Grandmaster has a banter with Topaz, but the fact is there's no real banter. They're on the room together. There's no real banter there. It's
Yeah,
not there.
yeah. I think also part of it's like Jeff Goldblum's like maybe it's a thing where like Jeff Goldblum's
They're poking
it's
him with
not
the stick, saying, "Do Goldblum things."
no. It's for me. It's like it's probably the thing where like Jeff Goldblum, if he probably did this stuff in live action, it may not have been as grating. I think that's part of what makes the Grandmaster a relatively fun character. It's not just like the dialogue; it's kind of like the facial expressions, the way
Yeah.
Goldblum kind of like gesticulates, and in animation, I think the animators didn't know how to like convey that.
Plus, we
And
also made him really dumb. We dumbed him down here too. We made him
yeah,
really
yeah.
stupid.
No, the whole thing is like, oh, it was kind of a tie, and it's just like, okay, like that. I get like the whole thing of the Grandmaster is like he's kind of just like just a step or two like away from being held accountable because he just kind of charms his way or just like
Yeah.
no or just knows to gently point the finger at someone else, but still like they could have this episode. I just feel like for all the hubbub was like, oh, we can have space season one, put a season two, like
And it's like I don't need Iron Man having his big emotional appeal to Gamora while they're like racing like 1,000 miles per hour. It just feels like can't they just have like an actual conversation? Does it have to be like during like a speed racer climax?
yeah, yeah.
Because I can respect the core beats of the episode, what it's going for. Like, okay, Iron Man, like, how do we get him to Sakaar? Really good idea. Again, a big what if. I would have loved to have seen what
Oh,
happens if Iron Man.
you would have been a better way to done this episode. It's like you would have like Tony comes to car,
Mhm.
find the gladiatorial ring, and then he takes the role of Hulk and then
Hmm.
Gamora comes in the role as Thor
Hmm.
to fight against Tony.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Again, again, the episode starts so exactly what I want from a what if. Okay, what if Tony Stark did not end up going through the wormhole in Avengers? Like that's great because that's the thing I did wonder. And then we put him in Sakaar. Like, okay, that's something I can believe would probably, if you're hurtling through space, that might happen to you. But again, we no gladiator stuff, no Gamora, nothing. No legit reason for Gamora to be there. It's like she's been tracking Tony Stark. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yes, Jacob said, I'm a racing fan, so I like to conceive this episode. Like Death Race meets Ben Hur. I mean, look, I can respect the I respect the death race. It's the fact that again the death race kind of comes out of nowhere is one of the roadblocks I have with it. And even so, it's like we kind of do it a lot, and then I don't know. Anyway, we do kill off Thanos in a horrible way too, when we in a horrific way, I should say. Like, we use like the melting stick on him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what melted Thanos looks like?
the
A
grimace
spilled.
shake.
Yes.
Yeah, God, that does sound horrifying. It's just oh God, he's just gonna do the melting Titan
Yes, Stark. I am too cursed with.
with the
with
knowledge of what's in the grimace shake.
yeah.
All right. So, let's talk about episode 5. What if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? So this was okay. This was my third. This is in the three favorite episodes that I had. And this is for me, honestly. This not before I knew there was going to be a Christmas episode. This one, I knowing this one was definitely going to be in this season, was my most anticipated episode. I was most hyped for this because again, it's kind of taking a lot of things I really love. Of course, I loved I love Haley Atwell in the MCU, particularly the Agent Carter TV series, and just obviously everything we've done with her, like with how she kind of pops up in Endgame at the very end. And I don't know. In general, I've loved it when she shows up, and with What If, we've kind of developed her a little bit. We've kind of shown like, okay, if we did do the full on Captain Carter thing, this is what it would be like, and we get to kind of explore some stuff with her. This season kind of gets into that here, so we're taking just Captain Carter and we're taking essentially my favorite MCU story we've ever told, and we're kind of like taking that what if and we're progressing it to a sequel that I would absolutely want to see based on everything that I've loved about the MCU up to this point. So I'm very sold. I'm very in for whatever this one's going to throw at me, and I think the end results are pretty good.
For me personally, it was my second least favorite. It wasn't bad per se. I will say this: it didn't do like the thing that was a criticism of the first episode of the first season, where it's like it's literally just a plot, like beat by beat recreation. The first adventure, this isn't a recreation of the Winter Soldier. It takes some like interesting diversions, and you have some characters that wouldn't have been in the Winter Soldier. You have like the Statesman, James Barnes. You have like Hydra Stomper, who like isn't basically like he is the Winter Soldier, but because he has like sort of like the big Iron Man design, like the way he moves, the way that Peggy has to like counter for it is a lot different than just like how Steve would counter the Winter Soldier. So I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Um, I do appreciate though at the end of the episode where you have like the suburban town in Sokovia
Mm-hmm.
and like
Essentially, it's like the old test sites with the bombs, like the bomb test site thing.
yeah, and just seeing like and then them getting hit upon for by like the Red Room
Yeah.
and seeing like Melina show up and like kind of sort of for all the Black Widow fans and all that stuff.
Mhm.
See, which kind of makes me wonder if like did the writers not want to use Red Guardian?
Well, no. Okay. Well, no. Here's the thing. Actually, there's a reason. I think there's actually a legit reason why we don't use Red Guardian in this one.
Well, no, because he's in prison. I know.
Well, no. Not that. I'll tell you why. I think the reason we don't have Red Guardian here. Think about this. It's not just Red
Oh,
Guardian. Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. So it's
I
the fact
see.
that it's the ripple effect. We have a couple things in this episode that you're kind of wondering at first glance why aren't certain characters there, and I think it's a lot. It's the domino effect of what if here. We're okay, so we have we have an English super soldier here with Captain Carter. Because of that, we don't have we don't have the U.S. super soldier project. We don't have them looking into recreating it. We don't have them doing that. We don't have Abomination, we don't have Bruce Banner. Because of that, we don't have Hulk on the team. Because Peggy Carter isn't running Shield, we don't have Janet Van Dyne disappearing in the quantum realm. And because there's no Captain America, like a direct like Captain America, I don't know if it's like a Russian superiority thing or not. Like not really. Look, I don't know because we have like Melina calls it out later. Like we still like Captain Carter, but it feels like more like it might have been like a
Well, no. Actually, I think you're onto something because I remember like because you know how the opening like it shows Captain Carter in the place of Captain America in the first Avengers movie. You
yeah.
have Wasp, and that's actually it's revealed by AC Bradley in an interview that that's Hope Van Dyne.
Yeah.
And she
Oh
made,
wait, really?
yeah, that's Hope Van Dyne. Yeah, and
Oh,
she made because she was making the point that like because like Peggy Carter's the first superhero and she's a female superhero, that leads to a domino effect of like women getting more involved in like in prominent positions. And so Hope Van Dyne being a superhero early on and being on the Avengers in that shot, that was the result of Peggy Carter, being Captain Carter.
gotcha.
And I think Melina then, by result, she is the stand-in. She is the Captain Carter equivalent for the Soviets or the Red Room.
Yeah. So there you go. Well, exactly. So either way, it's just the fact that like there's no like direct like we're trying to we want our own poster boy like Captain America, so we're leaning heavy into the Red Room. So the point, but there's like reasons we don't have certain characters in this, and we've kind of gone other ways with it. So yeah. Anyway, so that's that. Really not. It's neither here nor there beyond that point. But here's the thing, though, Rohit. Even if we are like even in like the ballpark of the story, doesn't it feel like Captain Carter should be the exception to that rule for you, or like not rule, but I mean, like an exception of that because like this is very directly like of all the we don't need to do it every episode of What If, admittedly, but for Captain Carter, that's literally like first Avenger. It's like what if like okay, every time we check in like with the primary storyline of Captain Carter, that's going to be the Captain America movies, but through this different character.
I mean, it's I get what you mean on a technical basis, but I think just like in terms of me as a viewer, like seeing Peggy Carter go through the same things that like Steve Rogers does, because considering some people's complaints that Peggy Carter isn't really that distinctly different from like she's British, she's like brassy and all that, but she's not that different from Steve Rogers. It's not as fun to see her go through the things that Steve Rogers does because it's not like there's opportunity for new decisions to be made. So at least for this episode, you at least have a new locales and the dynamic between Peggy and um Steve. It's interesting in the sense that like Steve, like in this episode, like he kind of has a similar Winter Soldier look with the beard and all that stuff. The fact is that like with the suit, like the fact that this episode has it where like he can get out of the suit because if he gets out of the suit he'll be dead.
Which is a parallel to Tony Stark.
Yeah, no, and
I really appreciated that.
yeah, and also I think it would make it also it would help then for the episode to just not end already with Steve getting out of the suit and just kind of like being in a hospital and recovering.
Yeah.
When it gets to sort of like the suburban town in Sokovia, uh, having both the trio, which is kind of funny. You had sort of the main trio of like Sam, Steve, and Nat and Winter Soldier. And this you have like Peggy, Nat, and Steve uh going against the Red Room assassins. That was a pretty cool like divergence where you have like instead of being like a big bombastic, you have to like explode. You have to demolish three helicarriers. Have like this big helicarrier and like the Red Room literally flying above, and then you have sort of like a more ground, effort with like both Peggy and Nat just trying to like subtly through stealth and like subterfuge to take down all the Black Widows. And then also like have like and then you have also like the big Hydra Stomper kind of like fight trying to hunt down like kind of like a predator, all that stuff.
Yeah, but I love that with. I like there's like some tension within the action, which is kind of like again it has a Winter Soldier vibe to it. I like the with the choice of the climax, with the little, with the house, with the 50s, kind of bomb housing thing.
Mhm.
It's them with the suburban town. They're basically fighting through the life that, we know they kind of get at the end of Endgame, but it's like it's funny that she's kind of battling with, she's kind of it's like the life that she wants with Steve, but in conflict with her. She's like fighting through like this homey like 50s town.
Yeah.
But so again, I think we're hitting the visuals really nicely there. You're rooting for him. There's some sadness there. It's the fact that Peggy Carter is just kind of cursed not to be with Steve Rogers, except within the main timeline through a very, after, well, what I mean, after going through everything through Endgame.
Mhm.
So, um, so yeah, I mean, it's this fact, it leads to the tragedy of the sacrifice where he goes off yet again. Like her big Miller dropping the shield is less like, like getting pummeled near to death by the Winter Soldier, but in this case, well, by the Hydra Stomper. But in this case, just like, I just can't do it anymore. The can do woman's like, you know what? I can't do it anymore. I've been fighting for so long and giving it my all, and for what reward? Just like, just take me out, man.
Mhm.
And it's, he goes for the self sacrifice. And I love how we kill off Melina. By the way, so horrifically.
Yeah, no, it gave me vibes of like Indiana Jones movies where you
Mhm.
just have like the Nazi get demolished by like the blades of a plane.
Yeah, in this case, just like, oh god, she's like tethered to him like a kite or something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going up there, dear God. So here's the thing. Let me ask you this: do you think? I, I think I get comic book logic. He's going to be alive, and that's why they're looking for him. But he looked anyway. Anyone observing what just happened, like, okay, he's there's very slim chance of survival on that one. I mean, pretty dead, right?
Like
He flew up into the base and it blew up entirely. And I
I
know he's
feel
in a
like
suit of
I
armor,
feel
but
like
still,
I feel like he should be dead because at the very least the sacrifice is meaningful.
yeah,
And then it would be an interesting divergence where
yeah,
like Steve got to bring back Bucky back from the edge,
hmm,
whereas for Peggy did got to get Steve back, but ultimately she couldn't have Steve in the world, and it
yeah.
would be kind of interesting for where does Peggy move on, in a world where like she got to see Steve again, but it couldn't have that be a permanent thing. And I guess that would be, and for me, I'd be interesting. It would make like the Peggy in Endgame even more unique. Maybe in like she's one of the very few Peggies in the multiverse to ever have a happy ending with Steve.
And that's kind of what we've been suggesting with. That's kind of what's been suggested with this season. It's like, yeah, we have a lot of like, differences where we just do not get like Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers having a happy ending until Endgame, which is like remember, it's like essentially Endgame is like the one, it's like the one that succeeds. 14 million realities that kind of like we defeat Thanos.
Stephen Strange is secretly Peggy Steve shipper.
Yes, yes, he is. Well, no, Tony, you could have gone a different way, but this is the only way it's going to make the fans happy. So yeah, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe it was kind of a mistake to have her like, like being on the hunt for like, I'm going to look for him, and then we pull her out into the 1602 thing, which we'll get to. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I didn't realize I didn't really internalize this, but I think like it's interesting that this episode, like the Red Room, is in the place of Hydra, and but it as mentioned at the top, like Steve and Bucky like were taking out Hydra bases. So maybe it's a thing where like in the early 50s they were to nearly vanquish Hydra, and thus Hydra wasn't really the main driver and player. It was probably the Red Room then, which is kind of like a neat, uh twist on sort of the wider lore of the MCU for that particular story.
Well, actually, you bring that up. There, that in this episode, I do kind of find it BS that Fury. Here's the thing: I kind of get what they're going for, but I don't. I think it kind of only went with it halfway. Where on one hand, it's kind of BS that Fury didn't like take any of the rumors of the ghost stories of the Hydra Stomper seriously. Where it's kind of like a sorry. It's a nod to in Winter Soldier where we have like where there's kind of a distrust. There's kind of a distrust of the establishment kind of thing where the whole like we're kind of questioning our bosses. Element of Winter Soldier, and I think I kind of wish we leaned into it a little bit more because the most we have of that is like Fury wants Widow to take the kill shot and she doesn't. That's kind of as far as we push that idea, but it feels like Bekar should have been more upset with Fury in that scene. I mean, she was upset with him, but I don't know. It feels like there maybe should have been a little bit more of like a kind of like a kind of whole Project Insight kind of debacle, perhaps. Not
Well,
I'm not saying we do actually do Project Insight again. I'm just saying like
yeah,
kind of like a wedge between them like that.
well, it's probably the case that like the Red Room, like if with I guess with Hydra being vanquished, the Red Room maybe is not as ideologically desiring to have like a secret world order through like orchestrating terrorism, because the Red Room isn't really defined ideologically. But from what I recall in the Black Widow movie, they weren't really especially like they were doing like they're willing to like manipulate the world and covert ops and all that, but I
Yeah.
don't think there was any designs to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
with
with Black Widow, it was just the matter of like all the Black Widows were just. It was like we're taking innocent girls and we're turning them into killing machines. That was what the main threat was for Black Widow. It wasn't really
yeah,
a world threat.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's probably whoever like hires the Black Widows probably would be like that's it. There's also like a whole like bunch of assassins out, and assassins aren't really good for business. But yeah, I guess what I'm getting is like it's a weird thing because we have Bucky. The implication is that I forget if like he's supposed to be at the top of the rung with she like the fact we don't have Alexander Pierce, and I forget if Bucky's. Here's the thing. Technically, Bucky's job title is what Secretary Ross was essentially, but by the same token, he's in that same
No,
meeting
no,
room.
I thought he's supposed to be in place of Alexander Pierce because
Well, that's the thing. No, here's the thing. He's in the room and he's seemingly in the position of Alexander Pierce. Was Pierce called Secretary Pierce?
yeah, I thought he was.
Like in the MCU, is it that Secretary Pierce is then replaced by is then replaced by Ross?
Is Alexander Pierce even Secretary of State
Well,
in the?
that's what I'm getting at. I don't think he is Secretary of State, but we're calling Barnes Secretary Barnes.
Hold on. Let me look and hopefully there's a better.
Because that's the thing that kind of lost me, where because we're trying to portray him like
No,
he's
he's Secretary of the World Security Council.
okay, so he's still secretary, but different secretary then. Okay.
He's not Secretary of the State Department.
Gotcha. So he is based. So he very much is. Okay, it's still peer. Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. All right. Anyway, so yeah, but I think because of that, that's why we don't have like an insight or anything going on there. So I get why we didn't fully go into the whole conspiracy thing, but still, it does feel like like that's in Winter Soldier's a big moment where like Steve Rogers is starting to question authority, starting to question Fury, and it feels like we had like an inkling of an idea there, and we didn't really go full tilt with it. But I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a different character, or
Well,
perhaps that's
is Zola like captured in the first episode? What if?
Yeah, that's the thing. They captured Zola in the original Pegard episode, like really early on. So we didn't,
Like, I don't know. Maybe like I guess with maybe Steve and Bucky, maybe like they had enough of a influence, or maybe this MCU doesn't do the equivalent of Project Paperclip or Operation Paperclip
yeah.
and bring in Hydra scientists.
Well, that's the assumption because it seems like they pretty much squashed out Hydra all the way till the end. There in the Red Room, got a hold of Steve. That's kind of the implication is.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of interesting stuff there with the episode. I think the episode has more layers, and the more we look into it to some degree. I don't know if that makes any sense, but okay. So let's go with episode 6. This is a very unique episode this season. This is what if Kahori reshaped the world.
Yes.
So I respect this one for its originality and what it's doing and the new character that introduces. But I don't know. I could. Here's the thing. I'm not saying this is the weakest of the bunch, but I could see this from a marketing perspective being the weakest of the bunch. I could see this one not doing great. I mean, it's not my favorite, but I don't hate it or anything. It's just I like it, but I don't find it as rewatchable as the other ones. That's the thing. I'm kind of with Jacob on this one, but I really respect like the premise of it though.
I really this is what I kind of appreciate about what I appreciate about this episode is that it was the most unique, and
Yeah.
I like that it because it has an original character. It doesn't
Mhm.
have to follow any prior MCU projects.
Which
The
is great.
story went, it made it interesting. And I think what how like Hori comes in play, like the civilization of like the Sky People. It's like it's interesting now that we like in throughout the MCU we have like a secret African civilization that's really advanced with Wakanda, a secret like indigenous Latin America or Southern America civilization with Talokan. You have like a secret Asian civilization that's like advanced through like magic with like the people of Talo, and then now this you have like a secret like indigenous North American civilization of the Sky People. But what I appreciated was that like how through just like one Infinity Stone can impact an entire like tribe or peoples, and the fact that like what I really appreciated is that like I didn't know that there was like a dub that there was a version that you could hear in English, but I watched the episode through the sub and you see the language. It just and that was such a unique experience, kind of like especially I'm not a super familiar. Like I was a history major and I learned history. And we learned history about the Native Americans, all that stuff, and seeing kind of that stuff displayed with sort of the MCU flair of like Kahori and like the Sky People having the Space Stone fuse energy was really cool. And I think it was a really interesting continuity because in the regular MCU we have like really interesting um like power sets that derive from the Infinity Stones with like Carol, with like Scarlet Witch and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it made me less like, I really want to see like um uh more like example, like more civilizations or more like, all right, here's like the time stone or the reality stone, and these are the kind of power sets that can be derived from it.
Yeah, no, here's the thing. First of all, I had no idea there was an English version of the episode. I just thought it came with says that when it comes up on Disney Plus automatically, it has like like it has it's in the native language.
No, so it's in the native language, and there's a version where the actors speak English.
See, I really wish I don't know. I wish I could have been. Had I known about that, I would have rewatched to see if maybe maybe I have a different experience with it because I feel for a lot of people the subtitles are going to be a disconnect. Here's the thing: the subtitles, in the way it reads, it just feels a little repetitive about things. I don't know if that's just because it's subtitles or if that's maybe like the writing of the episode for me. Because a lot of it feels like, okay, we portal because of magic water, and do we help or do we not help? That's essentially we kind of go. There's a run around with that for a little bit in the episode, but I don't. I wonder if the pacing or maybe the impact that is lessened by a dub or not. Or by a lack of dub or not. I don't know.
I guess since I've watched like not a lot, but enough media that's in subtitles that like it didn't really went far that way. I guess I wonder if maybe for the dub, it's like you get a little bit more feel of like the character dynamics and like
Because I really do
personality
love our.
through an English dub versus like the sub. It's like if you're not familiar with the language, you don't know like if certain accents are emphasized, if you can tell like personality, temperament, and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, again, it's even less that just looking at it just in subtitle, like the way like I would assume it's intended to be presented because otherwise why do it that way? It feels like if that's like if you're binging the episodes, well, that's the one they really. It feels like that's the one they want you to watch. The one with the subtitles, and just looking at it that way, I did really like that character from what was presented. I got her imperative, and I liked what I see. I loved the ending, for example. The ending's very Scarlet Witch kind of Magneto, has some Scarlet Witch Magneto flair to it, where she's like, you kind of like speaking truth to power there. She's very proactive. She's standing up for people. She's like doing like she's using the control of space to stop the bullets and like putting the queen in her place. All that's great. It just feels like getting there takes longer than it should. So it really just feels like a pacing thing for me
Mhm.
in the episode. And I guess I don't know if it's like subconsciously it's like again I've seen like movies with that are entirely in subtitles and they're still like Parasite. Parasite is compelling. I mean, you gotta definitely have a focus with it, but it's compelling and it works. So it's not that I don't think the subtitles is necessarily like a deal breaker, but it just feels like something in the pacing is not helped by subtitles. If that makes any sense, I don't know.
Have you watched a lot of like animated stuff and subtitles?
Well, yeah, yes, I've seen animated stuff, but more of like a short series versus like a whole like I can't because of the way I was brought up. I can only really do the dub on like an anime I'm really into. Like for example, like a Dragon Ball or Yu Yu Hakusho. I have to do the dub because that's how Toonami did it. You know, if that makes any sense, I have to
No,
do it.
no. I tend for anime I tend to prefer dubs, and for me, I guess it's like I think well, so part of it, I'll probably maybe this is maybe not. I don't know if it's a
Because a
bias.
lot of work went into those dubs. You got to appreciate
No,
sometimes. You know,
definitely. So like for me, it's like so. The main actress who voices Kahori, she's also going to be an Echo, playing a different
I
character.
heard that. Yeah, Holmes,
Yeah.
something Holmes.
What?
I thought like her name's like something Holmes or something Home, like whatever her
No,
last
no,
name is.
her the actress name is Devery Jacobs, and she
Jacobs. I don't know. I don't know where I'm getting home. Sorry, it is Jacobs. That's what I was
no
thinking.
Devery Jacobs. I know her because she was the main one of the main. She was on the main cast of the 3 season show, uh, Reservation Dogs. If you for anyone who hasn't seen it, I would highly recommend you watch it. It's one of the best shows in the past 5 or 10 years. It's about a group of kids on a Native American reservation in Oklahoma. It's a good like comedy drama with surreal elements, and she plays a really cool character. And so I think for me, like because I'm familiar with her and hearing her voice, and for me, the novelty was that just hearing her speak like a native language. Well, I don't know if she's part of that specific tribe that's depicted in this episode, but the girl's the point. It was kind of an interesting experience, and I think part of it also, it's like I think part of why I can understand where people may find this episode boring. It's like it's literally all right. The Native Americans have magical powers, and they go up and they defeat like Spanish conquistadors, which is cool, but not like this is like cool. This is like MCU cool. Like it would have been interesting if maybe if the Conquistadors had some like MCU like flair to them with maybe like another stone that had these kind of properties or whatnot. Or actually, if depending on how this concept gets further developed, it'd be cool if imagine if Kahori got to interact with like Wakanda. That would be interesting to see down the line. And I think that's where it would probably be more like this is so kind of divorced from the MCU trappings. So I think for people, it's like, well, it might as well not be part of the MCU, and that's what's the interest in watching it or like in seeing this, right? So I can understand people weren't as engaged with it. Like it's for me, it's like I appreciate just how like focused it was on like the native culture and like Kahori getting to meet the sky people and like the it's it for me it was I just kind of was involved in the atmosphere of it on a like on a like episode in terms of the writing and pacing of it. It may not be the strongest, but I enjoy just sort of the novelty of it. And I think for me that's kind of where I'm going at where it's like for me like the more unique a what if can be, even if it goes outside the typical MCU formula or or like milieu, I kind of can appreciate it more, even if it's not doesn't have the strongest like or most compelling writing or plot.
Fair point. All right. So Strange Supreme shows up at the end, and that's going to pay off
Mm-hmm.
big way. We're going to move on to episode 7. What if Hela found the 10 rings? Admittedly, it's a misleading title. I know she finds the 10 rings, but let's be honest. I think when you look at that title, you're thinking, okay, she's going to find the actual 10 rings.
It should have been what if Hela landed on Earth, or what if Ella was exiled on Earth.
Yeah, that's the thing. Unfortunately, if you ever look at the what if titles, the majority of them really aren't like the act. They're like the really the what if that's symbolic of the story, but not like the actual like what if this one specific. Because again, it's going to be a mouthful. I guess is why they don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
They're afraid it's not going to be like an interesting sell or a good title. But
Yeah.
anyway. So yeah, this is I get the sense this one's not really your thing, given that this one's very much like, okay, we're kind of going through the Thor plot on this one. But I mean, the main thing I take away from it is that Kate Blanchett, I think, did a really good job, just taking Hela and putting her in kind of a fun situation. Like we're putting her through the arc of Thor, but she's a bad guy, so she's very much not. It's I don't know. It's found it interesting that we're kind of putting this villain on somewhat the hero's path, not even really a hero's path, because she's still in league with like Shang, with Wen Wu, so it's kind of like Thor meets Shang Chi to a degree. It's I don't know.
I really liked. I was it was my fifth favorite episode of the season, and I like.
Okay.
Yeah, and I really appreciate was that the arc that Hela goes on is a neat parallel to Loki's arc in like the Loki series.
Yeah, her revelation is essentially it's the whole Loki free will thing, so it does track. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and also I think it's interesting, like with how with seeing this Hela develop and grow, how much of like her she is kind of the proto Loki,
Hmm.
and you kind of wonder like for Odin, um, if like how much it's like for it's kind of tragic or really a misfortune on like for Loki's part that Odin basically had like a daughter that was like him and didn't and treated her like unfairly, and for Loki it's like I guess there's one consolation. It's like okay, Odin is just not accepting of a certain type of like child, and like it's really Thor is like Odin's favorite.
Yeah. So, yeah, yeah, that is really interesting. Where we see, sorry, it's basically it's interesting to see her put into Thor's shoes, because Odin was kind of, in some senses, he was threatened by her, to a degree of like, it's like if Odin did not have like the perspective or the like the change of heart that he had, as we kind of learn the backstory of Ragnarok. If we have like, as we kind of, I like that we bring it back here, like the big fancy mural in Ragnarok. We see that Odin, admittedly, Odin presented as a terrible father here. Let's be honest. Just
Oh
it's like
yeah.
terrible father. Essentially, like symbolically, he's chaining his child, like he's chaining the little baby Fenris, like the giant wolf that she has. Which, by the way, evil as hell it can be. That little girl with that giant wolf. That's adorable, isn't it?
Yeah, it also is kind of a trip because like I remember in Loki season 1 we saw like Sylvie's like origin.
Uh huh.
She and the young Sylvie is like a dead ringer for young Hela.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I got to be honest. I would be surprised if they not repurposed the same child, but I don't know. Yes, that's the thing.
Oda's not a big fan of morally ambiguous brunettes as children.
Nope, no, he isn't. But yeah, so it's as Jacob kind of said here. It's a good thing the sacred timeline Odin isn't this evil. That's the thing. It's kind of Odin again. We established main timeline. He is shady, but he does kind of a moment of growth, which is basically why he banishes Hela. And that's the thing. If Odin's ego was really in, basically, hey, I want to put my child in her place, so I'm going to do that. But then Odin's just being real tight fisted, real real kind of like bringing the hammer down. Well, destroying the hammer in this case, but you get the idea. But it's a lot of BS though in the episode later, where he's in quotes upset about presumably Hela's demise because Heimdall can't see her anymore,
Hmm.
and the 10 rings are on there. Really, just Owens, it's a power trip of like, no, they can't have the 10 rings. I don't want anything that's going to rival my own power, like my daughter, who I dispatched with. So it's like, really, it's like it's not that he cares about health, but he cares about the rings, and he thinks he's still in the right about peace and everything. Is Odin's jacked up in so many senses in this episode.
Yeah, it really kind of feels like Frigga, like in the sacred timeline, Frigga kind of had to really like make Odin be a better person or better father figure.
Yeah,
Because
that's what
in
I'm
this,
saying.
Frigga's
Really,
just
the whole reason Loki can be redeemed is because of Frigga. Let's be honest.
Frigga is the real glue of this family.
Oh, unequivocally. But like I said, so Kate Blanchett, she's great. She's having a lot of fun with it, and you kind of feel that. The here's a kind of a missed opportunity, but I can respect that they did what they could with it here. So essentially, Wenwu's courting death, much like another MCU character. We kind of a lot of people were expecting to do that,
Mm-hmm.
and yet we didn't do it. Thanos appears at the very end, though, and yet you'd imagine what if we would try if we're going to bring in Hela and Kate Blanchett and everything. It's like, what if Thanos met Hela? Almost like a when Harry met Sally sort of thing. What if?
Yeah,
No, but seriously, I like the dynamic that Wenwu has with Hela, and the fact that we kind of call out, no, he doesn't want to marry her, but he does respect her, and he kind of likes her, and he kind of wants that. But you get the sense that Wenwu does kind of like her too, regardless. It
I mean it's Kate Blanchett.
it's interesting that yeah, of course, who wouldn't want Kate Blanchett? I mean, come on.
It was a little interesting that like her model had like the eyeshadow
Mm-hmm.
throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was just trying to visually imagine like Kate Blanchett with that outfit and with the eyeshadow.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of weird that we you'd imagine one what if would probably try that, but I think since we did this here, I don't think we're ever going to get that what if, which I think would intrigue a lot of people. I mean, wouldn't you want to see that?
Um,
That
because
would have given us a very different Infinity Saga, don't you think?
would it really? Because the whole thing is like here's the thing: the whole thing for Thanos in the comics is that he is sort of this sociopathic, like serial killer
Mm.
alien
Right.
that has this like macabre fascination with death that is anthropomorphized to be this like woman, um, and and then like Thanos just kind of just this like lovelorn like serial like deeply disturbed serial killer that kills half the universe to get that's affection. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
for the MCU, he has this Malthusian like kill half like hey maintain half the population to save on resources. So I don't know if like if him and Hela would really get along because they're not in the same wavelength. Because Hela's
Well,
like she's
I
the
see that
goddess of death
point. I get.
because she's a great warrior and causes so much death and suffering. So she's not really even the goddess of death in the comics. Like she's just banished to hell and it just remains there until Odin's spell is done. When Odin dies, and she comes out and it's just wreaking havoc.
Hmm. I see your point, but I guess what I'm getting at is it does make me wonder if like a meeting in the middle might have occurred where it would have been like, okay, what if Hela showing up and coming crossing paths with Thanos, and it was like kind of like she gave him the like somehow they came to the point of like the whole half and half thing. But even now that I'm saying that does even if they come to the same realization of like doing the whole like getting rid of like killing half the universe, like I'm saying like she says kill them all, and he says no, if you do half, and that gives him kind of like
I mean, she would probably want the Infinity Stones just that way she can have Asgard rule supreme over
Mhm.
everything, but
Well,
not
yeah,
necessarily. Yeah, but that's which is just different from Thanos' motivation. So if anything,
yeah.
it's kind of interesting to kind of have like a situation where the hero's in the middle and they have to decide to like either work with one of the villains or pit the villains against one another and just kind of be at the bystanders to see how it pans out. So it could be better. It'd be more interesting to have like a Thanos versus Hela situation than
Yeah.
this Thanos and Hela working together.
All right. Well, anyway, back to the actual what if that we did get. Um, Yeah, so we have like the whole purified Hela thing, which is kind of interesting. Like she kind of found an appreciation for the life that she has control over, has dominion over. So I mean, that was kind of a good solution.
Mm-hmm. And her going to Tao Lo with the
Yeah,
help of Maurice. Love Maurice. Maurice is like adorable. I will if Maurice ever gets a plushie, and
you
if
really feeling Maurice, eh?
Maurice is just like
I mean, I think the plushies probably exist if you look hard enough.
well, I'll know what I'll get for this coming year, but uh, I appreciated I appreciate like Kate Blanchett was allowed to kind of have like a more comedic bent to her Hela. I definitely wonder like how it's. I think part of it's like Kate Blanchett and Tom Hiddleston are both British actors, and the way they do like quips and all that stuff, like the cadence and all that, you can't help but feel like there's a certain energy that they both emanate.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I really wish, although, I really wish Michelle Yeoh was in this episode, or her character was in this episode.
Well, yeah, but remember, like, the wife, Shang-Chi's mother would be alive.
She is alive in this episode.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So because of that, we don't need the aunt. We don't need Michelle Yeoh.
True, that's fair,
That's,
but
I mean, I thought the same thing, and I realized that. Well, yeah, I guess we don't really need her because this is like what I think the presumption is that I don't know if when we met her, and it sounds like they've met, but really the way the episode portrays, like, what if you kind of met Hella instead of her? That's kind of what it feels like, but I don't know.
yeah.
Anyway, so
Well, no, they don't meet because Wenwu, when he meets Xialing, it's relatively modern day or whatever. It's like,
right, because he
because
had to go
remember his
he had to
attire,
go
his
through,
haircut, yeah, and like he was
he
in
had to
like
go
a
through the
jeep,
forest.
yeah.
Remember now? Oh, yeah, so that's thing. Yeah, I'm saying they hadn't even met yet, so it's kind of like Hella's kind of inserted herself.
Yeah.
Okay. That brings us to episode 8, penultimate here. What if the Avengers assembled in 1602? So this is kind of our Marvel Zombie equivalent because memory serves 1602 is like, am I right? Isn't 1602 like the medieval thing, like a thing from the comics, or am I misremembering that?
1602 is I think it's a miniseries
Yeah,
written by Neil Gaiman, and the whole premise of it is like, what if the Marvel universe existed, if like in like the 17th century, 1602 and all that stuff. You have all the different characters in like medieval, or
yeah,
that kind of space.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. This episode feels like an equivalent to the Marvel Zombie thing that we did last season, where okay, we're going to take something that's very, recognizable, kind of Elseworlds esque, kind of like what if, well, what I mean, like kind of like an imprint of the Marvel stories. Um, I'm this episode. I really want to like this episode a lot more. I like the episode. This is where I get into a lot of my multiverse kind of stuff here, and this is less multiverse, more just like in the making of a show. I'm seeing a lot of mandates in this episode. Um, where again, I already mentioned my issue with the forced crossover thing, like doing the events for the finale, where it feels like okay, we're kind of chaining together a bunch of episodes here, where maybe we shouldn't chain them together. Now, to be fair, in the first season we did chain together the last two, which is I think that's fair. If you're gonna like in the first season, I thought that went hand in hand very well. Okay, we introduced Infinity Ultron, he is the threat for the last episode. That tracks to me. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But here it's like, okay, as much as I love seeing, Peggy Carter, it feels like, she's in this season a lot. And we're doing really good stories with her, but I'm just saying in a show where we got to be careful, we only have like a limited number of episodes, and we're playing with sequels, and we already, just to avoid just fitting them into what if seasons, we kind of gave a spin off to the Marvel Zombies. It just feels like, all right, we're kind of on one hand, it's already kind of deviating focus from like a jam packed. Well, again, essentially they can only do so many stories, but really, what the issue is with this one for me is that in putting Peggy Carter in this episode, which I don't mind, but in doing so, we are taking away from the premise of like, okay, so it's the Marvel Universe in 1602, but now we have this character as a carryover from the previous story, and the whole premise of this story that we're having here is like this universe is destabilizing, so we're not like the universe itself is barely an entity; it's only an aesthetic. Like, there's no real story here. It's only this place is coming apart and Peggy Carter has to save it, but we don't really care about this universe because we don't know anything about it. Does that make any sense? Did I make like a nickel of sense in any of that?
You're saying that like it's not like, oh, this episode isn't focused on, hey, what is it like for the Marvel universe to function how we understand it in the 17th century Elizabethan era. It's like, oh, here's this like, it's sort of like this episode feels like an episode of a Captain Carter show where Captain Carter wakes up and like Marvel Universe is the 1602 and she has to like fix it. Yeah. And now instead of just like exploring a world in of itself that could be done as a spinoff, like World 1602, it's like, oh, there's just kind of like
that's the conflict, you know. It's like I like it, but it's really, this isn't like a 1602 episode like it was promised, you know. It's just like, you know, this is the Captain Carter saved 1602 episode.
The thing is, like, I like the 1602 episodes, but I think what's kind of weird about it is that like, oh, like it's the Marvel Universe 1602, but the thing is, our main character is a character who's interacting with other characters that we are familiar with from 616, but
Mhm.
she's not in 616. She's in a
Yeah.
different universe altogether.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of got that with the Hulk. With the presumption is she doesn't have a Hulk in her universe, so she was kind of thrown for that one. So I mean, there's a bit of that. No, so the execution is fun. You know, like for example, we open this episode Loki as a hammy actor doing Shakespeare with King Thor and Hell and Queen Hell. Like, oh, that's great. I love that. You know, we have like Rogers Hood, man, Rogers Hood with Ant Man and Bucky. Oddly, no Hawkeye, which did bother me. Hawkeye should have absolutely been in this episode.
Yeah, and there's no Black Widow in this either, and
Well,
that's
Black
like,
Widows, that's one thing. I'm saying we needed Hawkeye. Hawkeye's literally the whole bow and arrow, the Legolas. We needed that.
yeah, no. Also like trying to think. There's like what I feel like this episode could have been done better if there was a like considering the reveal of this episode is that like oh the 1602 realities because like Steve like just slashed at the time stone in the in Infinity War, and that caused
Yeah.
the whole thing to like. It would have been cool if there's one character that maybe could have been like from that timeline that
Mhm.
woke up in 1602 and it's like, wait, why are all my friends like in medieval garb and speaking in like old English, whatever.
Seriously, I love the reveal. I mean, not necessarily how it works in the context of the other. I just love the idea because I gotta admit, when I saw the trailer for What If, I did see Infinity War Cap going up against Thanos, and of course, I do love that part of that movie. And I was intrigued, like, okay, is there gonna be a what if about this? And I gotta admit, when I was getting into the episodes, I was wondering, are we gonna get there? And I saw this guy looks like him, but he's in the medieval setting. Where is this gonna connect? And then, of course, we realized, okay, that's how it connects. So the idea of Cap hitting the time stone is pretty good. I do like that, but you're right that we could have gone further with it. We could think about this. One way we could have gone. Cap hits that and his whole reality, because the way maybe he strikes or he breaks the time stone, like the whole in breaking that stone, it it maybe like sends the whole world back into 1602 with like a concussive effect that maybe people don't realize they've been jettisoned back to 1602. So they're just like acting like it's been that way the whole time, you know?
Well, what do you mean?
Well, I'm saying when Cap hits the stone, what if it like turned like the whole timeline into 1602? Like instead of him getting sent back in time, what if it was like the whole world?
No, no, I thought. Well, I thought
I'm
like
saying it's a little vague. We don't really know the specifics. So he hits the thing and he's been transported to either another
it's
universe or
not
a branch timeline or
it's
something.
not transport. It's just like the two times are kind of folded in on into
Yeah.
each other.
That's not. He was sent to 1602, so that's what it
No,
seems like. He
no,
was sent
no,
there.
he was not sent to 1602. What happens is that like the way he slid okay, I don't know the way he slid the time stone and how you want to describe it is that the 21st century and then the 17th century 1602 have folded in and mixed in together. The timelines have like meshed to one another. And
Okay.
that's where you're seeing the 21st century characters in like in a sense.
Okay. So it did kind of happen the way it was. Okay, that's
Yeah.
kind of neat though.
Yeah.
That is a good question.
He's in 17th century Titan. Whatever that looks like. I mean, we do get references to like Black Panther. So I have no so like the fact that like there is a Wakanda and like there could like we don't know like how far this time, like if it's just from a little bit to Earth or the galaxy or the entire universe.
Yeah. I do like this runner though, just like caps through time though between this Cap and obviously Kevin Carter. I mean, it's almost like a quantum leap sort of thing. He's going back, putting the Infinity Stones back. There's all sorts of caps through time, either being frozen or using the stones. It's all sorts of stuff there. So that's great. I don't know, it's a lot of because of that review. We're building that almost somewhat like a mystery, somewhat. Uh we have some unanswered questions like how does shrinking work? Like my presumption is that's magic. Do we need an answer? Not really, but does it like everyone has the ability to shrink, including Ant Man with all the yellow jackets? I don't know. Here's the thing that really did legitimately bother me a lot. Okay,
Okay.
um, using Happy Hogan as Freak again in this one made no sense to me. It makes no sense whatsoever. If they wanted him to fight the Hulk, they should have in the Christmas episode. You shouldn't have had Bruce Banner eating cookies. Okay, if you want a Hulk fight, put it there. Don't just invent a reason for a Hulk fight. here. Okay, don't just like and Happy happens to be freak in this universe makes no. Why? It's only because you had the model and you wanted to reuse it. That's the only reason he turns into freak here.
I mean, we don't know if the Infinity War, if the Steve Rogers we saw in the Infinity War scene in the What If episode, it could be the same. It could be literally the sequel to that like Christmas episode.
By the way, tell me one thing about that. Okay, what's your read? They kind of laugh off the whole "you'll be able to turn me back," right? Like that. They kind of laugh it off at the end. Do you think like he is actually stuck like that, or do you think they're actually going to cure him? Like, what do you think?
Maybe tweet at AC Bradley and she could provide the answer.
I mean, it feels. I think the lot. If you take this episode to heart, I guess if you take this one as like a continuation of that one, you
Maybe
could look.
like I think probably like Happy Hogan will chill out enough to where he converts back to human
That's
form.
what I'm saying. It feels like it's gonna be like the Abomination from from She-Hulk, where like he does have a control over it. That's what I guess that's the idea. I guess that's the implication though. With Happy's just kind of stuck like that. But that's what I'm saying. I don't know. If you make like a direct sequel to that one, it feels like, come on, we can't just keep throwing the. Then again, now that I say this, it does make me wonder. Okay, if we bring John Favreau back, we do like we make him freak and
Mark
some
Ruffalo in a CGI suit is just like throwing jabs at John Favreau in a CGI suit.
exactly. I mean, you gotta wonder, like, are we gonna get to that point? Are we gonna do freaking
Maybe
by?
Happy turns into Freak and he fights Hulk in World War Hulk in the MCU.
I mean, it's a way to go. I don't think that's up. It just feels like we're already like wondering if we're gonna get like Harrison Ford turning into the Red Hulk or not. I don't know what's gonna happen.
He's gonna be the Red Hulk.
I mean, you'd imagine so, right?
Yeah, it's like
Do you think we're gonna give him the mustache or no mustache?
I think he'll be without the mustache.
Well, I'm not saying the Red Hulk. I just mean like Ross. Do you think Ross is gonna give him the mustache or no?
No. Like the set photos that have been leaked of Harrison Ford. He doesn't have a mustache.
So he doesn't have the mustache.
No, he doesn't have the mustache. Like there's
That is just so. Why Harrison of all people? Why Harrison
it's
Ford?
because Harrison Ford is is a cinematic legend.
Yes,
Two, you have the
he's
guy.
very accident prone. He's gonna get hurt on this set. Mark my words.
He hasn't been accident. He didn't get an accident for this movie.
He gets
So
hurt on every movie now.
he does not. He literally
Yes, he
got
does.
injured in The Force Awakens, and did he get injured? He didn't get injured for Dial of Destiny. Was he injured for?
Yeah, he was injured for. What are we talking about? Yes, he was injured for Iowa Destiny. Yeah,
Okay.
it was like his wrist or his
Well,
elbow or something.
maybe since he doesn't have to do any like heavy action scenes, like yeah, did he get hurt in shrinking? Maybe he got
For all
hurt.
I know, he could. Okay, to be fair, that one could have been more like a minor injury sort of thing. But no, he did. Come on, he didn't get hurt on Dial Destiny. He gets hurt on these blockbusters all the time. Come on.
I mean, if Harrison Ford himself is not doing any stunts and it's all CGI, I don't see how he's going to get hurt at all.
Okay, my point is, it just feels like okay. We want Harrison Ford. Just really, at most, he's going to be doing a voice if we're even lucky enough for him to do the voice
Okay,
of the Red Hulk. And it just feels like okay, Ross has a mustache. He's been cast as a mustache every which way we put him in. There's I mean the one time they're changing an actor, then there's like, hey, we've changed the actor. We've gotten rid of like the very distinct feature in the one of the gags of Red Hulk. Of like, hey, when he turns into Red Hulk, mustache, no mustache. Call it a cop out. Call it just like a weird casting. I don't know. It just feels.
look, you want Harrison Ford, the guy who played the American president in Air Force One,
Mm-hmm.
in a Captain America movies, the bad guys act is like that seems like a cool idea. So I feel
But
like
it's like longevity of our casting here. It's like, come on, we cast an older man who's already. He's just. I don't know.
look, Harrison Ford will live to 100. I like that.
I hope so. I want him. I want him to pass 100.
Well, I mean, maybe be the case that like once he turns into Red Hulk, he becomes permanent, and then Harrison Ford just has to come on set once in a while to do like some CGI stuff, and that's it.
I don't know. It just feels like we just wanted a big name and we didn't really think it through.
You'll in our spoiler cast for
I'm
Baby
sure he's going to be great in the movie. It just feels like the
Ford
longevity
is
of
the
it.
MVP of the movie, and you'd be sad about like God. I wish we get. I hope we get more Harrison Ford at Thunderbolts or some other like Disney Plus show. That's maybe he'll show up in Black Panther 3. Yeah, that's okay. Let's
I
get back.
would love him in Thunderbolts, though, as Red Hulk on the team. I would love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's see. Um, well, again, I already got a lot of my grievances out for 16 and 2. I mean, look, the medieval setting is pretty cool. Admittedly, though, Thor's a sucky king, isn't he?
That's to illustrate the point that whatever issues you have with Thor in 616, he could be worse.
That's true, kids. That's true. But seriously, he was just like, he's like a lousy king. Like, hey, just a little patience, buddy. Like, what do you expect? She's tried to save the queen. She held her in her hands. The queen let go. She didn't let go.
Thor didn't have his journey of having to live in Midgard,
Thor,
and
you can fly. Why didn't you save Hela?
because Thor deep down wanted the throne, and then wanted to like wanted to defeat the one person that could have opposed him as king.
Yeah, I guess I'm
Thor's
saying
playing the long game.
he's too much like his father at the Thor. So
Indeed,
he's living up to his namesake.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so chemistry between Rogers Hood and Peggy Carter and the whole maid Margaret. God,
Mhm.
that's funny. It's still funny to me. I don't know why. Um. Anyway, so again, I mean, there's things I like about the episode. It just feels like we've kind of sideswiped the whole like. I don't know if it's like how much of that's like they realize, man, it's just Marvel gone medieval. We can't make a full episode out of that. We don't really know what it's just going to be like the world we know, just all medieval.
Sorry, I'm just reading the line from I think Jacob. I'm dead. That's great.
It was really funny when she said.
Hey, that's hey. If you can't find your true love in this universe,
She knew the risk was I'm going to be stuck here, but hey, if I'm going to be stuck here, at least I don't have any competition. It's myself.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's Steve Rogers and Super Soldier, or just
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She's got a, yeah. It's all coming up Millhouse for Peggy Carter.
mm-hmm.
Also, I do love the dynamic she has with Tony Stark, which just he loves all the sci-fi talk of things because he works in magic essentially, but he wants technology.
Yeah.
Like just say more of it to me, like flux capacity. Oh god,
Mhm.
that's just it had moments. It's got a fun setting, but it just feels like we don't really have a good focus. Like we're two competing plots on this one. I don't know. All right. Point being, Peggy Carter's trapped, but a certain Sorcerer Supreme, or in this case, a Strange Supreme, shows up and offers her a way out. And that brings us to our finale, episode 9. What if Strange Supreme intervened? So this is a fun finale.
Yeah, the sheer bombast was great, and for people who have issues with this episode, like I understand a certain respect, but at the same time, it's like I feel like the bombast and just the way this episode went, it was much more preferable to me than what happened in the end of season one. Then in season one, it's like, okay, you have Ultron with the Infinity Stones, and you have all these characters for all the different episodes, and they just kind of just throw shit at them, and it's kind of bounces back. Whereas this, it's like you have the main villain be a character we already have an emotional investment in from like last season and this season, and you have kind of this conflict where it's like, he's like Strange Supreme is bad, is like wanting to like kill all these like universe enders and all these heroes to like bring back his universe, and like for Peggy, like you feel for her as she feels for Steven, and on top of this emotional like stuff, you have like the sheer insanity of all these different. It's not just like 5 or 6 characters as a superhero team going against this one guy. It's like a free for all, and that was just great. And the sheer like craziness of Peggy getting the Infinity Stones, getting Hela, getting the sort like all the stuff that she booked like just looked like a like where you see we're going to like a fighting game or just a certain game where it's like this character will just look really crazy with all the different enhancements or features they have on. That was really cool. And I think that's kind of what I would want from What If is like if you go wild, go all the way wild. And I feel like this episode did that while still having a decent emotional like through line that ended in a really like thoughtful way. And I think like the ending shot is just really cool, especially with what happened with season 2 of Loki at the end. I was like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah. I Here's the thing. The one the one hesitation I had with this episode story wise, really, aside from as I said, is the whole like it feels like we might be kind of shooting our load here a little early with the whole we're doing another big doing kind of like another like an event thing for our ending versus maybe just a good standalone kind of like what if episode. Like even the title, like what if Strange Supreme intervened? It's like not really, it's not really intervening. He's trying to, he's trying to like basically use the multiverse as a battery.
Well, just
Not a
sure.
battery, as a,
Well,
it's a
well,
sacrifice more than a battery. But
yeah,
sorry.
he's building a stew for his universe or create scenes alive.
Yeah. So aside from that, I mean, the issue I have though is in what we do with Strange Supreme, it does come across that Strange didn't learn anything from season one, which I think is like, it's kind of a shame because I thought
Did
it was,
he really learn anything for the first season? Because people bring up this point, and I kind of actually want to interrogate that point a little bit. So we have the so we have the Strange Supreme episode. It ends with him being sad and desolate that he lost his universe and lost Christine. And then when he's brought when you want to watch your recruits him in the end, he's like, "Oh, I want you to say it. I want," like he's very gloating about it. He doesn't have any sense of humility, whatever. And then in the last episode of first season, where he's with the Guardians of the Multiverse, the reason that they were successful, a large part of it, I would argue, is Strange Supreme being Strange Supreme. Like all his powers, he's literally like if you were to take all the Guardians of the Multiverse, he's like 99% of the team's power level. And I think for Steven, if I were to think through what he's experiencing, it's like, well, what is there to learn beyond the fact that like my abilities help to contribute to save the world, to save the multiverse? It'd be one thing if say the end of season 1 had it where like he was both an asset and a liability because of the power, like the whole um like conflicting demons, or he maybe he could only use one power at a time, something like that, where he wasn't as powerful, but he was like supremely like him being Strange Supreme and going through all those sacrifices, taking all these demons, all these like vices inside of him, gave him like a killer advantage in stopping, uh Infinite Ultron
Mhm.
in season 1. So for season 2, it's like, well, my powers, what I got to help save the multiverse. Why can't I have just a little something for myself where I could just bring back bring back the universe? Literally trying to amend for some mistake for the first season. And he does that by taking away all these universe killers that would have caused a lot of damage to other universes. But he goes a step too far by even taking in just regular heroes
well,
from like,
that's what I'm saying. Why did he have to overstep though? Why couldn't he just use the bad ones?
maybe that's not enough, and that's kind of where his like for the demons that are possessing just Stephen
Freaking
Strange.
infinite multiverse though. He's not gonna run out of bad ones.
Maybe there's only so many universe killers. That's how like I that's a,
Universe killers. Universe.
maybe there's not that many universe killers. I don't know how much like power, like how many ingredients you need to bring back a dead universe with your dead girlfriend.
He had a cowboy Loki.
Hey,
It's a
Loki's a menace.
cowboy.
Look, Cowboys can look. We saw westerns. We saw John Wayne, Clint Eastwood. Do Tombstone.
It was
Cowboys.
Loki in Spurs.
Hey, a Loki is dangerous, even if he's wearing cowboy boots.
Ugh. no. Look, I have no compunction with a. I'm just saying in terms of I don't look a universe killer. I don't think a Cowboy Loki is. That's all I'm
Maybe he was
saying.
a good guy. Look, maybe he was one of the
Even
good guys.
so, this is what I'm saying. It's like okay, even if he is a good guy, like that's really like an all powerful, like if not a universe killer, a universe liver that we want. You know, that's gonna power his forge really, like a Cowboy Loki.
Well, I mean, Loki's got like innate magical power,
Here's
so
an idea. Maybe he could. Oh, I don't know. Trap the Watcher.
or even maybe like
It's not like there's. Oh wait. Oh, here's a memory. There's a lot of Watchers, even in mainline MCU.
mm.
Could kidnap a whole bunch of Watchers if he's gonna kidnap the good guys.
And then maybe the
Not like
Watcher's
they
like,
have the
hey,
ability
I
to
can't
traverse the
intervene. No. The
multiverse.
Watcher's like, hey, Peg, hey, Captain Carter, I know I can't intervene in everything, but can you please intervene in my stuff? I'm gonna die, please, please. I'm just trying to imagine Jeffrey Wright saying all that, and it'd be.
It would be funny.
Oh, God. But yeah, no, I think the way we're I so I'll concede that like maybe the way in which like he needs the universe killers, yeah, it could have been better written, but I think just on the thematic level, I think Strange Supreme being the main bad like is a little bit more compelling than like if Infinite Ultron, because Infinity Ultron is just like I'm super powerful. I'm gonna be super powerful, destroy all the universe. Whereas Strange Supreme, it's like, oh man, this is a dude that's like really wanting to bring back a universe, and you feel bad for him. Like, so you're conflicted for him in a way that you're not conflicted for Infinity Ultron. So you're just kind of waiting for him to be the bad
He
guy.
is
But
in a very unique position here because his whole universe is gone. He's like the only survivor of that universe, so there's a lot of guilt there.
yeah, and he's trying to fix it. He's trying to like fix his
Yeah,
mistake. So he's not like so he's acknowledged his mistake, but I think the tragedy for this Strange Supreme is that the means to fix his mistake is the means that caused the mistake in the first place.
exactly.
And that's the character flaw in Strange Supreme.
Yeah, I mean, let's look. That's good, and again, that does make for an interesting finale for sure. I don't know. Yeah, I mean that works. It does feel maybe a little like it in the effort of like we've been building this up for a while, and the strange is coming in, and it's in the background a little like I don't know, like it doesn't quite have like the pop of like we had a whole episode dedicated to. We had a whole episode dedicated to Infinity Ultron, but by that logic, though, in the first season, we had a whole episode dedicated to the reasoning behind what Strange is doing. So it's not that it comes out of nowhere. So there's not an issue there. But I don't know. Something feels just a little like he comes in there. He tries. It's like why if I guess I'm sorry. It's the fact like why he needs Captain Carter to go after Kahori there. I guess is maybe because he had her very much, and I guess she escaped using her powers, and they needed like an unknown entity to kind of lull her into a false sense as a distraction, essentially. So I mean, I guess
Uh-huh.
yes, that works. I don't know. There's nothing really wrong with like the episode or getting or Strange doing his thing there. I mean, the only thing just in hindsight is like it seems like Strange really came around on the first season. But you're right. We don't really necessarily say that he's all better now, and he did use this power to stop like two very universe killing beings, two universe killers. I don't know. Again, it's still like the thread of like again like all these like why did he have to go so big when there's so many other options? But then it's like think with any writing, it's like well, there's always like there's this you could have done this and this and this, but
Yeah, and
it does feel like a model dump though at the end with the climax. Like we're gonna have all of them fighting each other, use all the models we have possibly here.
honestly, I think it would have been great if instead of having I would have scrapped the Grandmaster episode and had an episode for Strange Supreme, and then that would have probably helped to like make people not feel like it's out of left turn for Strange Supreme to be in the position he is. Because you could maybe have it where like 1602 ends, and maybe have the beginning of this of the episode been the end of 1602, where it's like she finds out like, oh, Strange Supreme's gone bad, and then you have it had to be the seventh episode, have the eighth episode be the Strange Supreme focus episode to give us like what's his reasoning, and then the ninth episode is like what happens at like after the reveal. Because then it's like, oh, what happened to Strange, and you get his reasoning and why and the process of it, and then the ninth episode is kind of the big explosion, the big like everything is going to chaos. I think that would have been more structurally better because like we don't get much to Strange Supreme in this season. So when he comes in, it's like you're squeezing in what could have been more fleshed out, like in a prior episode, to now just that one episode. Since the last episode is the same length as the other episodes, it's like you kind of just speed running through it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have some great action beats in this, despite kind of the big crowd battle, which I think the crowd battle is like the one that's what kind of makes. Sorry, in the first season, I think it's a very I like the simplicity of the action for the season one finale here. And by the same token, though, this season I do respect, like, okay, so Strange Supreme is kind of our end all be all, because no one wants to go up against Doctor Strange. Even Spider-Man, balks at Doctor Strange. He lucked out with math that one time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's getting all like the kind of magical elements and like totems and weapons from everyone, like to help take out Strange Supreme is a pretty cool thing. Admittedly, Kevin Carter does look a little silly with his helmet on, admittedly, but I don't know. It's kind of neat, but it's kind of silly. The big thing.
It's silly, like it's silly in the comic way, which I can appreciate.
I don't mind it. I'm just saying, like, when you look at it too, if you live with it for a while, it's like, yeah, is it silly? But like the loophole of like, okay, well, Kahora doesn't have to lift Mjolnir. She just uses her abilities, the space stone to manipulate the space around the hammer.
Yeah.
Peggy Carter with the Infinity armor is really cool, and the coolest moment in the whole thing is she takes all the stones in one hand and punches them like the Infinity Punch.
Mm-hmm.
That is really awesome, and her in the Infinity armor is pretty neat. Admittedly, though, I can see him cutting corners on the budget here and there. It's like, hey, Peggy Carter we had this whole beat where he got rid of the armor, and just to put her in the outfit, and then she put it back on when she put on this suit of armor. It's not even like she has the chest plate from the Infinity armor, but the rest of it's just like, it's back to her medieval garb.
Yeah.
So a little bit of that going on there. Let's see. Oh, by the way, just the initial multiverse that we find Kahori in, it's the whole what if Hydra won thing. That's a clever one. It's like, what if the bomb that went off actually just took them all out?
Yeah, because both Steve and Peggy died in that.
Yeah, it's what if it like took them out? It's like, yeah, that would do it. You never think about that, but yeah, that'd probably do it.
Mm-hmm.
Leads to the Red Skull and Mount Rushmore.
Yeah,
go figure. Anyway. Let's see. So, we have like a lot of callbacks here. Like, we have like the whole Marvel Zombies with with Scarlet Witch is it's a pretty cool visual. Infinity Killmonger. Kind of wish he had a line of dialogue, but I'm guessing Michael B. Jordan was busy that day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We already kind of went on about Cowboy Loki. Just imagining Cowboy Curtis. It's so funny that we actually had Lawrence Fishburne in this, so it's like Cowboy Loki.
Or also just thinking about like sort of like a unique MCU connection. Like Owen Wilson played a cowboy in the 1992 movies, which were John Levy, who's going to direct Double 3. And
there you go. It's all relative, kids. It's all relative. All right, so I don't know. It's a bit of a cameo fest in the action. Honestly, the fight with Strange Supreme, while cool, it does go on a bit long. It's no Thanos battle, I'll give you that, but it still is pretty neat though.
So, I do like him putting on the delusion for Peggy, and she thinks she's back in like the 1942 at the Brooklyn, experiments site underground.
Yeah, I know. Or we got we kind of reenacted the moment right before the what if occurred. With Tucci and everything coming back. But that was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys make of the what if Marvel logo? That was really nice. The fact that they have enough what ifs that we can now actually do the logo. That was cool.
Yeah, That was really cool. I liked how for the way the episode ended, like Strange was the one to stop himself, and he ultimately did create a universe um, with Christine in it, but not him in it. So honestly, that would be interesting. It's like who stops Caecilius? Wong, or maybe a different person who becomes Sorcerer Supreme.
That's a very good question.
Happy Hogan, or Jimmy Woo, or Darcy.
Oh no, come on, bro. We know who
Madison
got
is Madison
we
become Sorcerer
no
Supreme?
no we know who becomes Sorcerer Supreme. You know who it is.
Scott Lang.
No, it's Ned.
Oh God.
Yep, Ned becomes Sorcerer Supreme. No, don't be silly. It's Ned because he was magical the whole time. At least we never knew it. No, but yeah, it's probably no. Also, it's probably is Wong. Either the ancient one just didn't keel over, but who knows?
Mhm.
114 million. So, all right, let's see. So yeah, so at the end of the day, let me ask you your take on this. So Peggy Carter takes Germany through the multiverse. She wants to take the scenic route. Now, do you take that to mean that she wants to basically she wants to get a good look at the multiverse, which essentially is the Loki tree at the end, or is she going to kind of like Captain America style? Is she going to like take a few trips and maybe helping out some multiverses before she ends up back to her original
Both.
universe? Like, you
Both.
say both?
Yes.
Okay. No, I did really like like seeing the whole Loki tree at the end because it does build. I think it does set. Sorry, it's a great visual, but it also kind of suggests that it's a little up in the air. Like eventually, we're going to be crossing these over. What if, and whatever Loki's got going on with Secret Wars, however that's going to pan out.
Mhm.
Right now, a lot of things are in flux, but
Yeah.
however that's going to go, eventually we're probably going to end up there with Secret Wars. So, kind of putting those in parallel to each other is rather interesting. Now,
Mhm.
whether we're going to have like a direct connection, I would like to think so. Otherwise, why you have all these toys? Why can't we put them in the same toy chest? But
Yeah.
right. Well, right, unless you have anything you want to say, like in rounding out 9, I think that's about it.
Yeah. I'm interested to see where season 3 goes. It'd be interesting, like considering the first season was weekly, second season was daily. I'm wondering if season 3 will be released all at once, and that might be an indication that season 3 might be the last season for What If.
I think you're probably on the money with that because here's the thing, right? I think this year is going to be very important for Marvel Studios animation work because this is the year we're supposed to get Spider-Man freshman year, and we're supposed to get the X-Men show,
And Marvel Zombies and
and
Eyes of
yeah,
Wakanda.
and in doing that, that's really going to be a barometer, like if What If's going to have viability because I don't know how well this season did or not. I don't know, but a lot of, I mean, see, when you look at the animation style on What If, it's not that. Look, I like some people really don't like it. I think it's fine because again, it's going for the MCU. It looks like the MCU has I kind of like the cell shaded look. Admittedly, some characters turned out better than others with the details on the faces, but the fact is, I like getting What If on the regular, just to keep it alive. And sometimes you can have some that really hit out of the ballpark, some that don't. But
Mhm.
still, it's the fact we can keep it going. We can kind of like kind of appreciate the gold as it comes. Now, with that in mind, though, I think it's going to depend on like how these other Marvel shows do. Because if those other Marvel shows do not do well, I mean, they're absolutely going to start shuttering these things, and What If's definitely going to be on the chopping block. Plus, imagine what's going to be eaten into their pockets because we're going to have to get the voice actors. I mean, ideally, the whole gimmick of What If is with the three very notable exceptions, they're getting as much as the original cast as they can.
Mhm.
So it's I'd like it to keep going, but you're right. If it does premiere all at once, that would probably be a sign of the end. But either that or Disney Plus still has no. There's experimenting with whatever works. Like Echo, let's put it all up at once.
Yeah, because the thing is like there's been like for some scoopers they've said that season 3 is the last season of What If, and then some people's like, oh, there's talks are in development of season 4, and considering like season 2 came out in 2023 and season 1 came out in 2021, so if say What If comes out like at the earliest 2025 or even the latest 2026, then assuming if everything gets delayed, let's say hypothetically, Avengers 5 and 6 come out in 2020, 2029, like you could probably have space for a fourth season, or you could probably end at season 3 and then have those characters pop up for Secret Wars as like a final, oh, hey, hoorah, blah, blah, blah. At least that's how I think, because maybe it could be the case that like, depending upon depending on how season 3 ends, you could probably be the end, and then you have those characters show up in live action stuff, from say between 2025 to 2029 or 2026 to 2029, depending on when season 3 comes out.
Yep. All right, I want to thank our commenters. Why don't you shout out the commenters for us?
Yeah, we're glad to have Code Gios, anime fan, the one of our consistent watchers, no pun intended, and also Richard's Victims and Super Billy had popped in just a little bit. So we thank you all for watching it live, and we hope for anyone who's going to watch it after the fact that you enjoyed our conversation and discussion on these 9 episodes. And we hope you tune in for any other future spoiler cast discussions or debates on the channel. So you want to be an Imagineer.
Yep, we'll be having another overview kind of spoiler cast on Echo. That'll be probably. I guess it'll be this coming. I think because Echoes comes out the 9th, doesn't it?
Yes, it comes out the 9th. 05.
So that'll likely be. I mean, I don't want to promise it. But let's just say it's either going to be Friday or Sunday. Well, sorry, not Friday. I forgot I said Friday. It's probably going to be Sunday. We're probably just going to do it Sunday, unless something happens to which it gets moved. Let's just ballpark. Sunday is right now is what the plan is. So it's going to be coming. It'll be coming soon as we can after the week it premieres. So look forward to that. I know one thing I'm definitely looking forward to, as I think a lot of people are. And that'll do it for us tonight as we holster our remotes until the next installment calls for the draw. Just mano a mano, just Plus&Us. We'll be watching.